now. All right, everybody. We are back with a little special guest here. And I'm going to continue reading questions. And don't worry, sweetie, you don't have to answer any of them. You just be cute. Say hi to them. You could literally just make the whole video about us gushing over this cute baby girl. And I just want to make it clear to everybody, this is why he's running. And his other children who he loves greatly.
Oh yeah, I traded on my arm, but I have sleeves on.
Alright. So, continuing our little discussion. This is the second question from the Jessup event.
Okay.
Given recent pulp mill closures, what do you propose to change economic landscape in the area to make our industry, or to make other industries interested?
You want the paper mill closure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, we have to be careful about how these legacy industries, power one community, if that makes sense. There's no reason why a paper mill, a carpet factory, auto manufacturing plant, whatever it may be, that should not be the main economic driver of one community, because if that goes down, your whole entire community goes down.
I mean, look what happened to Detroit with the car industry.
And then also, it happens all over, and that leaves communities hollowed out, and then people don't have jobs. Then you're driving for work, to look often in cities, or drive far drive. I'm familiar with that, living in Camden County, because most of the work is either up in Brunswick or down in Florida in Jacksonville. So I would say I want to invest. I want to bring manufacturing back to America. I think that is a big deal, actually. I think that's one thing that has hit. It's said smartly by both sides of the aisle. We heard Biden say it. We heard Trump say it. Both have different ways of doing it. I was a fan of Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, of where you were massive investments in clean energy and whatnot. I would want to make sure those investments that are handed to corporations. Though again, I'm very cautious that you're using our tax credits for good. Like are you hiring workers from that local community? Are you paying a prevailing wage? Are you going to let them be in a union if they want to be, and not contest that vote? I think all that stuff should be structured to federal and public funds. If we're going to give you subsidies, do not take advantage of our subsidies and the taxpayer dollars. Make sure that it's benefiting the community in every way possible. That means stuff too, like offering their workers, child care. Like, I saw that with the semiconductor, the Chips and Science Act, to where some companies, with at least the Biden administration was trying to do, was to tie that federal grant money to those semiconductor plants opening or offering their workers child care, in-house, or maybe. I think that is an awesome thing for the workplace, to have a child care place for moms to go, moms or single dad, to be able to drop your kid off and at your workplace, if your work's better, maybe, and stay at your job and work, or even if it's in the same plaza. I think that's an incredible thing. I think it's a way to increase, the labor force participation, everything. It's just good for the economy. So that's just stuff I want to do. I think this I love this district. I feel like it has so much potential. From it's a bit inland. It's got the whole coast. I feel like it can be a hub for almost. I've always thought this for years, like a hub for clean energy and whatnot. We're seeing some EV plants coming into Georgia, which is great. I would like to see more of that as well. Do stuff, start like a civilian climate corps. Have that way, young folks that give them a pathway to jobs, start an apprenticeship. Get out there and fix our infrastructure. Our infrastructure in Georgia is completely.
Technical issue.
Our infrastructure in Georgia is terrible in my eyes. I get a flat tire very, very often. I think I would say it. I'm getting a flat. My mom's making fun of me. I'm getting a flat tire like once every 2 damn months, I feel like. And so that's a big issue, especially for a working class, person like me. when a lot of people in America can't even afford a $4 unexpected emergency. You don't need to have your roadways so bad you can't even drive to work without getting the flat. So
technical issue.
I want to invest in all those communities and bring manufacturing jobs back to Georgia's first tradition, or back to Georgia, and also back to America. That also means relooking at trade deals like Trump's and Democrats. They made the USMCA deal, but since that deal, it has not fixed our trade deficit with Mexico. It has actually shifted more jobs to Mexico. So, we've been crushed by that deal, by NAFTA. We have had some very poor trade agreements. You don't fix it though with universal tariffs. I like a more of a carrot and stick approach with some incentives for companies to come back here. And like I said, when you get here, a little bit of regulations to make sure you're doing stuff right. Like if you're taking public dollars, again, treat your workers right. No union busting. Offer certain stuff like childcare, whether that may be to your workers. I think this district has so much potential that it's almost unimaginable. We got a lot of land too. We have farming's big. You got your ports up in Savannah. That is a big economic driver. I want to see those.
And tourism.
Yes, and that's another thing too. Tourism is big too. I also don't like though. I did criticize the mayor on this in my post to him. He relies. They're relying on tourism too much in Savannah, in my view. I think that's a big,
college students.
I think that's a big weakness to your economy when again you're stuck upon one industry or one once it may be, especially tourism, because if we have an economic downturn and go into a recession, it's going to be very, very tough then. People aren't going to travel as much.
If people don't have money,
it's going to hurt the local budget. And then I've seen the local budget get hurt in Savannah, and local programs that help the people get cut, but the police budget still goes up. Still always. And that to me, I didn't like that. That rubbed me the wrong way that Mayor Van Johnson did that. And that's why I made that comment about his endorsement, and also get involved in Democratic primaries. And again, I don't approve of corporate politicians.
Yeah. So speaking of tariffs, what is your plan to roll back tariffs, and would you provide relief to those affected by it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do want to take back the power of the president to do so much stuff unilaterally, whether that be set tariffs on a set tariffs on a nation unilaterally, start wars unilaterally. I definitely want to fix those issues. So I would repeal a lot of Trump's tariffs. I'm not against having the president have the authority to initiate tariffs, but I think they should need to be reviewed by Congress within a certain amount of time to see if they're made permanent.
Basically, I would kind of say the president should not have the right to implement them, but he can have the power to execute them if, Congress comes forward with, because Congress already is supposed to have the power of the purse to begin with. So, in my opinion, I think Congress should have the power to to create tariff legislation, and then the president can sign off on it just like any other bill, you know. But the president shouldn't have the full power to, implement tariffs at like that.
Right.
Because you could see in the early 30s with the I forget the name of it. It's not hoopty. The tariff that was put in place by I can't remember what their name was.
Huge Smalley tariff.
It starts with an H. Anyway, somebody's in the comments is gonna.
I believe.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. I hope y'all know what I'm talking about. In the early 1930s, which is one of the things that kind of made the Great Depression, whatever, because they thought if we raise tariffs, it'll make people buy more American. That's not true.
Right.
It makes everything more expensive. To anybody who will disagree, I just want to clarify. Tariffs are a tax on imported goods that are passed on to the consumer. Every economist will tell you that. You can literally Google it, look it up. I promise you, we're not lying.
So with me,
and that causes inflation of pricing on everything, from groceries to gas to housing to healthcare, etc. It affects everything.
So for me, I view tariffs as a way to protect national security, and 2, protect emerging industries in the United States, whether it be electric vehicles, critical materials, green hydrogen, those emerging industries where other countries who have, oftentimes, slave labor, like in China and whatnot, and heavy subsidized labor, which is kind of, subsidized labor, that's different, but just, often, lower sources of labor, and they're flooding our country with products that are cheap that don't let American jobs compete. I'm okay with that on a new and emerging industry. I just think tariffs need to be used in a smart, strategic way, not in a very broad way like Trump does. That's very stupid. Like I said, it's often mentioned you've seen Biden do, an electric vehicle.
It was 100%.
100% on, BYD.
That's insane.
And that was the target, BYD. And to be honest with you, I do think those BYD cars are
they're cheaper.
They're cheaper.
And they're more efficient.
They're nice.
And they're very popular in China.
But I do want to protect I do want to protect American auto, but I do think, we need to look at what they're doing in China. That stuff with like clean energy, EVs, and make sure we can bring our costs down.
Just because they're investing more in greener energies,
and they did great,
which is what we should be doing.
And they do great with infrastructure to make sure that they are that we can have more affordable electric vehicles here, and also so your stuff that is affordable doesn't cheapness doesn't come with
right.
Like you're not I don't want to see affordability at the cost of something that is essential in the car or in a product that makes it inferior or less than it should be for the consumer, or breaks easier or whatever it may be. I just think tariffs need to be very smart, and I do think the one thing Trump, people get it wrong, people won't get mad at me, but they may clap back, is I think he hits it right where we have had weak trade deals, and I think most people agree, like I said, with NAFTA and even his deal, it stinks. I'm okay with free trade, but when you do that, you need to make sure that the country you're free trading with also has strong labor protections.
Oh yeah.
Like your country, or it's gonna, match your country. That way, again, your jobs are not getting shifted over to that country, and this stuff is not just gonna get, imported from that country back into America at a much cheaper cost because they were able to produce it there cheaper. I'm sick of this whole offshoring, big globalization thing. I think we made a big mistake. I think also that's not bad in today's era. I think every country, even our allies, should look at that. And people might say I'm being quote unquote protectionist or
isolationist or whatever.
America first or whatnot. The language, but in this day and era, with how complicated politics is coming, not just in America, but nationwide. I want your country to be able to sustain itself and your civilization to be able to thrive if something goes wrong. Like I don't want our country to be able to shut down, right? Like semiconductors. Most of them came over. Taiwan makes a lot of them, and we makes the majority of them. So during COVID, that rise of the price causes prices rise for cars, everything else, because semiconductors are in everything. We need to make sure that that doesn't happen again, and we onshore a lot of stuff. It's okay.
Well, I kind of elaborate on this topic a little bit too. I personally agree with just want to make it clear to people, America cannot produce everything in the world. We do not have the climate for a lot of crops to grow that are grown in other countries, etc. We don't have all the minerals and the resources. So this whole America first, where we produce everything, is actually impossible, because that's not how our planet works. One of my goals is for this country is to have stronger trade relationships with all nations on this planet, because everybody produces something that we all need, and we produce things that everybody needs. So, and it is a literal proven thing that having strong trade relations builds more allyship and more democratic interactions and relationships with other nations. Now, what you were saying about not supporting nations with slave labor, etc. There are still countries on this planet that have slave labor. if I'm not mistaken, Saudi Arabia is still like has a slave system. Qatar, I think, still has a slave system. Whoever, if I'm incorrect about any of this, actually incorrect, please fact check me on this. I'm still learning as I'm going too. So, I do actually agree too that, like, while we should have stronger trade relations with allies and other nations, we also should set a strong restriction on countries that have unethical practices of labor until that changes for their country. And speaking of, I also kind of want to make my own little opinion about something. America is not the world police. We have no authority and should not have authority to dictate what happens in another country, regardless if they're ally or not. If they are an ally and they are attacked by another nation first, we should support them, like Ukraine. But if it's like Israel, where it's been a back and forth, but Israel currently is committing the most horrific atrocities ever, at least in our generation, we should not be supporting any ally that is committing any type of genocide or mass murder or rape or whatever. And we also should be neutral in some places, depending on what the situation is. And we also should back up Taiwan against China. If Taiwan wants to be an independent nation, leave them alone. And we should back that up. I'm not saying we, fight for them, but, if they ask for our help, we should have their back as an independent nation. If they want to be a nation or at one with China, that's their decision, and we shouldn't have a say in that. That's not our responsibility. We mind our business, and everybody else minds theirs. But I would also like to ask, regarding tariffs too, do you think there should be a cap on all tariffs? Let's say every tariff from every country is at a 5% or lower?
You're saying a universal tariff?
Yeah, like everybody gets the same fair tax. So there's not this favoritism, or this very complicated tax system of it. It's this country pays 33%, this country pays 15%, this one pays 20%, this one pays 12%.
I mean, I don't think I think it's hard to set a flat rate, because I would just be freaked out upon how uneven that trade is with America at this point. And for me, just again with tariffs, I'm very cautious and intelligent with them, if that makes sense. I just want them to be used strategically, for emerging industries, national security purposes, stuff like that. I wouldn't say I could set a broad cap. I'm the EV tariff on that had 100%. I get it's high, but I understand that if BYD was to come here and sell their cars here, you're going to put a ton of Americans out of jobs.
I kind of actually disagree with that, actually. I don't think that would necessarily happen. I think, because remember we were talking before about how setting up distributors here, that would actually create more jobs, because they're going to need people to sell their cars. It's not like they're going to ship their own workers over here to do it, which we're not against immigration, mind you. We're just saying if we set up companies overseas, I think other countries should be allowed to set up company or whatever over here. As far as because remember we were saying the manufacturing bit, the country itself where the company originates should be in charge of the manufacturing, but I don't see an issue with them setting up shop over here to distribute their goods. Think of retail, for example. If a clothing store in China wants to set up to sell their clothes here, in let's say California or something, or even in this district in Georgia, To me, I would think that would create more job opportunity for Americans, so that they can like work in those companies and be hired. And of course, you could set up like regulations, laws, etc., that say, okay, you can set your stuff up here to sell, but you have to abide by our rules of
Right,
our
and
country.
I mean, and in that aspect, I'd be okay. I mean, I just think I meant. So the point I was trying to make is like say, like outside there, so the talk of what the idea was trying to do right now was just to get around the tariffs, was to go to Mexico, produce their cars,
right,
import them. So that would be like something I'm against. You know
yeah, oh yeah.
Because then you're
that's
just,
like
then,
sneaky
right,
shit.
then you're just trying to get around the tariffs. And that's why I said like tariffs again. They're not a great lever to use. You got to use them very carefully because there are ways around them, and often those ways around them end up helping the country you were supposed to hurt, or help one of their allies, or whatever it may be. I just think tariffs need to be extremely smart and shouldn't be used in a reckless way like they are right now. And also, it's businesses do need. I'm gonna sound pro business. I'm pro business talking, but I'm not really pro business. I'm pro business.
Almost every candidate on this race has a small business,
right? And which is the backbone of America. So these small businesses need, more than these corporations, they need stability. They need to know how much they're going to pay for cost to make up. They're not as flexible as like a company like UPS or whatever, paying tariffs, if that makes sense, and then when they're important. So with small business being the backbone of our country, I think again we need to be very careful with tariffs. I don't think a universal rate is smart like the way Trump's doing. I think it's very dangerous. It scares them from hiring. It scares them from investing and expanding.
Oh yeah.
And the biggest thing I think you asked for relief-wise of what I would do with all these tariffs is honestly, the working class, including me, have been paying the brunt of this obviously for a while now, and then we're about to watch corporations who pass this cost onto us, the consumers, and we paid them, so we got taxed, we pay the tariffs. And now they're going to collect refunds from the Trump administration, and also Wall Street is buying up refunds from small businesses. So they're buying up. So say if a small business has, they're $100,000 of refunds.
I think GM's owed $500 million.
They might sell their refunds, or they actually are selling the refunds for like $20,000 instead of, and give it to give that extra 80 to Wall Street. Because the process is so complex, or they're just crushing so bad right now they can't wait. They need immediate relief right now. So I want to give immediate relief from the tariffs right now to both small businesses and to workers. I think it is time for a stimulus check, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or a tariff dividend check, whatever you want to call it, to just make up for these illegal taxes we've been paying for the past. Since Trump's been in office, it's not right, and again, it's the working class people like myself that pay the brunt of it, and I don't think it would hurt to give us,
something back.
Give us a refund.
Yeah.
We need it more than Costco.
Because
I need it more than Costco needs it.
Because they have lawyers that they can sue the administration. We don't, which I kind of want to make a little another opinion stated. I think it's extremely unfair that Americans pay so much into the government and we do not have. I mean, we have when we're charged with a crime, we have the right to an attorney. Mm-hmm. But it's in terms of divorce or civil lawsuits or even so that we could. I know people would say, "Oh, it would back up the court system, etc." Well, if we had more judges and more courts, and if we had more infrastructure in terms of building this shit, I don't think we would necessarily have this issue of everything being backed up. Because that's the only reason why things get backed up is because of defunding and understaff.
Right.
That's the case for every business, everything, literally everything. It's always understaffed and under budget, or defunded or underfunded or whatever. But my point is that I think it's, if we're gonna have a legal system where 90% of this shit you need a lawyer for, I think we need to have public funding for public lawyers for everything regarding law, so that every American can have a ready to go lawyer to represent them for anything. You know, because it's like take getting a divorce, for example.
Right.
Most Americans won't be able to afford a divorce lawyer because it's so expensive.
Right.
But it is such a necessary element to have in a divorce.
Right. And then it's craziest too when you call those local courts, they can't even help you out. Like they won't even tell you information. So it's stuck of you doing the paper. If you can't afford a lawyer, you're doing the whole whether it be divorce by yourself, and it also works into stuff like this with like getting scammed or whatever it may be, or say your worker say your employer takes advantage of you at work, and you have to get a lawyer. Often you're not able to afford one, or us working class folks will go out and look for a lawyer, and we get one, at a quote. It's not. We'll say it's for free, but it's not, because if that lawyer wins your case, they're going to take 60% of the winnings, and instead of just paying them a flat rate, you lose out. And that it's like there's always something to where it's like, working class folks, you can have a little, but you can't have it all. You know what I mean?
It's like the Facebook lawsuits where I was a part of.
$28.
I got like $30 or something, but they settle for like millions. And it's like, well, damn, I feel like thanks for the extra $30, but like, one, I had no idea this was happening until I was contacted about it. And then two, it's like, this is all I get for like them committing a crime. Like, it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I think they can afford to give each of us at least maybe 1,000 or more, like maybe that's wishful thinking. Of course, we're poor. We want more money. But like, that's what I'm saying. And it's like, and all these lawsuits happen without our knowledge. Like, I know some people will say, well, it's up to you to find out. It's like, okay, well, when you're raising 4 kids and you have like multiple jobs, and let's say you're a single parent, you don't have time to keep up with everything. You don't have time to keep up with all this stuff, which is why I think it would be a good idea for each and every one of us when we become adults, if we have to register to sign the draft or what the hell ever for military service, we should all be getting an automatic lawyer representation for these kinds of things. Because like, what if the government does what it's doing now with the tariff thing, and we're paying more out of pocket? We didn't choose to do. Well, I mean, those who voted for him, they're getting what they wanted, but like, I didn't choose that. Why should I have to pay more because somebody in office is doing bad policy and whatever, especially somebody I didn't vote for? I think that I should have the right to an attorney so I can sue, like, hey, you're making me pay more and I didn't vote for this. And of course that's some technical anal Annie's gonna come along and be like, well, in that case, I guess I should have a lawyer to sue the Labitiqua community for, saying I can't not discriminate against them. It's like, okay, well, that already happens.
Right.
And then you're going to have people, well, that's just back up the court system,
I think you labeled it fine. You labeled it for like, key situations of where it actually,
not
makes
frivolous
sense.
stuff, but real serious
stuff. Not saying you get a lawyer to launch any lawsuit or whatever, but I wouldn't mind those circumstances. It's smart. We already have public defenders. I wish you had more of them. I wish they were paid better. I wish they were better lawyers. But I think that's definitely something to that we could look at. We have so many problems in America.
Because like, if you look at it this way, well, let's say if you were trying to be a lawyer yourself, look at it. If you were to be an actual public lawyer, that's guarantee employment right there. Like, as soon as you get out of law school, boom, job, and like an actual like pay, benefits, etc. All that stuff provided for. That's why at the Realtor Forum last night, I know this is a little side thing, but the Realtor Forum, I kind of made the comment in the closing statement I gave that I heard about, like, we should be having construction workers and contractors, or like for housing and plumbing and all the real necessity shit that we need to be government employees, not like, these private. Because like I've watched way too much Judge Judy, and I've seen so many of the civil cases where somebody, a homeowner, hires a contractor and they do a half-ass shitty job, and then they have to spend even more money hiring another one to that's insane. That's ridiculous. It shouldn't be like that. If you're going to be a contractor to do housework, building, repairing, renovating, plumbing, etc., all the real essential stuff, then they should be a government contractor, or like paid for through tax dollars, so that we have a clear guarantee of everything being done up to code, regulated, not half-assed, etc. Basically what my point is I'm saying is that all the basic human essentials that we need to live and survive and thrive should be collectively paid for through taxes, so that we actually have a guarantee, like safety net. I'm not saying you can't have individual freedom in terms of buying things, like of course, like luxury stuff, not everything should be considered a luxury. Some things are luxury, like having a TV is a luxury, or like, I don't know, planting flowers or whatever, just miscellaneous things. But like literal things, cars, phones, education. I know someone will say, well, how can you say phones? Because the internet is a part of all of our lives, and everybody needs a phone for access to education and emergency. Like, everybody should have a way to contact an emergency number.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, and I know somebody would be like, well, if you do it that way, aren't you taking the freedom away from people to start their own businesses? It's like, no, you can still start your own business. You would just be a government contractor, or you would be part of the government. You could still have your own individual business in terms of like its own name, its own whatever. You would just be funded by the government. So even you would have your own guarantee and safety net. Like, if you're going to provide a service to people, we're going to pay you for it. So, and that way it keeps people under the laws and regulations, so that they can't scheme and they can't cut corners and they can't do things cheaply, etc., etc. I'm not going to say like entertainment should be covered like through taxes. Like, yes, entertainment is important to us, but I also consider that to be like an actual luxury thing, because not everybody's into, like movies or music or UFC or WWE. I think those things could still be individual, like whatever. Still have to follow laws and regulations and whatnot. But again, that's just like my kind of like opinion and like pipe dream or what.
No, I mean, it's definitely an interesting thought. I mean, it's
because what I'm thinking of, because my thing is like I want it to get to where in society, or and not just here but throughout the world, I want all of us to get to the point to where like we have a comfortable, happy, like covered existence. And I don't mean comfortable as in like, we don't care. I mean comfortable as in we're not stressed the fuck out over basic human needs. Healthcare, food, shelter, clothing, social interactions, etc. Like, we should have guarantees of those basic human needs. Because you can look at almost every study throughout history and just look at history and just people's behavior itself. We need each other to literally survive. We are a packed animal. We are an animal. We are a packed animal. And we literally do need each other to survive. I can't grow crops. I don't want to learn how to grow crops.
Right.
I'm not interested in that. But a farmer is.
Mm-hmm.
And I want farmers to be government employees because food is essential to us. You know, that is a literal guarantee of employment, of pay, of benefit, of like protection. Like if crops dry, if there's a drought, if there's a tornado, a hurricane, a blizzard, etc., anything that affects the crops, it's covered automatically. We don't have to do what Donald has done to the farmers with like the $1 billion bailouts because he fucking cut that shit to begin with. He did it twice or something like that. And where farmers are panicking, it's like, how are we gonna?
He tariffs them, then he bails them out with them.
Yeah, it's like,
their own tariff.
How are we gonna
tariff revenue?
Yeah, it's like, how we're gonna pay for my equipment? How am I gonna pay for the labor? How am I gonna pay for all the the fertilizer and everything else I need because I don't have my money now? And it's like, well, it's because of that. But if we had stronger public funded essential things that are needed, I think we would see like actual growth, not just economically, but also personally.
Right.
Like when people are not stressed about bills and all the food.
Oh yeah, you're more productive.
You're more productive and you're
And
happier.
like, yeah. And people are more productive for a lot. That's like a thing I mentioned about. We don't get to talk about too. Is when I haven't seen a candidate talk about yet too. Is this whole AI thing. You'll hear some candidates say...
Oh, don't worry. I have a question for that.
This whole inevitable... I'll wait for your question.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Don't worry. We're going to get to that. But going back to questions before I get off topic again. So this one's pretty simple. It is no doubt that ICE has become Donald's Gestapo.
Right.
We've seen it. American citizens have died. Detainees have died. No access to real food or medical care, children being separated from their parents, children being used by ICE as bait for their parents. Rest in peace to, all the people that have been killed by ICE, which was extremely unnecessary. And I haven't been seeing any actual incidents with ICE lately, so I don't know if it's died down or if it's still happening. I'm sure it is. We're just not seeing it because everything keeps happening.
Mm-hmm. War in Iran.
Oh yeah, great diversion from the Epstein files, by the way. But the question is, how will you combat ICE?
And it's not a rallying cry to me. I really want to do abolish ICE because and that's not even because of what Trump's doing. ICE to me was created after 9/11, which was a time where Americans were very, very fearful,
and xenophobic,
domestic terrorism, right? And we're scared. We were scared. We rallied around our president, who was Bush, which was great. That actually showed patriotism in my eyes. His approval rating was like 80 something at that point.
Too bad he lied.
Very right. He did run with it the wrong way, but it was good how initially we rallied around our president. I like that about America. We seem to do. We used to do it better. We did a bad job with COVID coming together, but we seem to come together somewhat when times get tough. I do think ICE needs to go because it was, again, created at a time where we were very fearful. It expanded government power, at a necessary time to combat domestic, terrorism. But it wasn't meant to be permanent in my eyes.
I don't think so.
I think we were doing fine before then. And I don't see an issue going back to the system before we had ICE. I know, not like the status quo, obviously, of what we had. Just, immigration moving from a less militarized police force. I don't like that. It's too military for me, and it gives like you're seeing with Trump. It gives any president, a Democrat, come into this image, that thing, and use this agency as their own rogue police force, and I'm not the one to reform it because I don't think it's really even needed. In my eyes. I think all the other laws too that were enacted around that time, like the Patriot Act, where you're using warrantless wiretaps to spy on American citizens, needs to go as well. they keep on reauthorizing it, and it needs to stop. We need to stop all this government overreach and treating American citizens, or anyone for that matter, who's here, like they are a suspect first. That kind of thinking is bad, and I think it again stems. Like I said, our country was very fearful. The government often uses fear, to try to expand their powers, and in that sense, it, right or wrong or whatever the results may be, it's gone on too long, and it's gone too far, and definitely in my eyes, it's been abused enough. So I think we can get rid of ICE. I'm not, for quote unquote open borders, as some Republicans would like to attack me on.
And maybe some Democrats.
Right. I'm for immigration now. This country's built on immigration, and we need immigrants here. Undocumented immigrants are mostly undocumented because of stupid stuff like their visa expired, documentation expired, and there's not enough judges or whatever
to
hear
Georgians, you are an immigrant.
It's also just
because you're from New Jersey.
And it's also
go back to where
people
you came
always
from.
freak out and say, this is some big old crime, and really it's just a misdemeanor. Like
it's only a felony if you've done it multiple times. Right. That's if you do it once, it's a misdemeanor. If you do it again, if you come to the country illegal or undocumented or whatever, again, a second or third or whatever, then it's felonious.
But I think we need to also. My more concern, I think a better thing to do than with ICE, even to address terrorism in general, is to stop screwing with other countries. Stop these foreign coups of this regime change
that America has been doing for
we've done
over 50 years.
We've done it with the CIA. You had the CIA with Reagan with the questionable coke, using cocaine to fund missiles and illegal wars. It's gone on long enough, and I think America needs to, again, like you said, I believe earlier, stop policing the world and stop these ridiculous foreign regime changes, this nation building we saw in Afghanistan. Yes, I want every country and people to be great, free, have all great rights and whatnot, but unfortunately that does not mean that we can just send American troops in or whatever and just bomb you and we change your whole world. I mean, what if someone did that to us?
We would all have a fit.
We are going to nuke you in one day, most likely, or not, or we may not, but we're going to quote unquote
annihilate you.
It would be a full-out war. I mean, we would go crazy. We don't let countries, even touch us. So it's unfair. And then also, you need to address the root causes, because often we'll do like sanctions and stuff, and it causes immigration to come. It causes immigration waves to come here because we're sanctioning these countries in Latin America. And these sanctions are not hitting the individuals they're supposed to hit. They're hitting working class folks, and it's destroying economies. And then we get surprised why people are leaving horrible conditions and risking their lives just to come here, because when we are the ones that cause political instability, economic instability, and everything else in their country. So again, look at the root causes. I want to get rid of ICE. Make a more humane immigration system, get more judges there. An asylum case can take up to 6 to 10 years. I've seen them go as long as they should be heard in 6 months, because at that time, I do think if you have a system where people know that it's that's long, it does make it ripe for abuse. You know what I mean? So it's to make it fair. So these asylum cases are legit. So people who are needing the help the most actually get it, are heard fast. Again, more judges, more price to citizenship. If you've been here in America and are working for long enough, just make them a citizen. I mean, they don't need to do no crazy stuff. They don't need to pay. They don't need to pay $1 million. They don't need a Trump gold card or whatever it may be, or do something crazy. If you're married to an American citizen, just make them a citizen. If you're a dreamer and born here, make them a citizen. I mean, come on now. It's this whole talk of this whole immigrants take my job and do this and do that.
It's just racism and xenophobia.
To me, it's like, I call it the manufacturer culture wars that these the media, politicians, the billionaire class love to throw at us, because they want a divided working class, because if we unite, we will.
We
can
trump
shut
them, no
this
pun
damn
intended.
country down in a day. I've said it. I said it in a few forums. What they fear is a united working class because we can handle a government shutdown, but those fools cannot handle a general strike. We will shut this country down in a day if workers actually united. So the powers that be above us will do everything and anything they can to keep us divided. So I hope anyone who's listening, anyone, whatever, my message will always be, whether elected with or not, is, you know, to try to unite around at least economic issues and stuff you agree upon, and fight for better working conditions, you know, better pay, all that kind of stuff, because you workers hold the power, and you'll get out there, form a union, anything. Workers, this is our country. This is not a country made by billionaires. It was made by the working class,
liberals,
by the working class,
literal
you know
liberals.
I mean? And like that's my party.
Slave owners, but still liberals.
My party is the working class.
Nobody's perfect. Well, speaking of that, because it's like, in my personal opinion, I think the American empire is dead, and it needs to die, and we need to shut down overseas military bases and bring our soldiers back home, in my opinion, because they're expensive as hell to keep up and running. And also, a lot of those countries don't want us there. And I kind of agree with them, because it's like having a guest that won't leave, you know, and they're trying, this is our house now, and it's like, no, because we sure as hell wouldn't let anybody do that to us, right? Like try to do it with, what is it, Qatar's air base or whatever in Ohio or something. Yes. And I'm like, and it's not because, like, oh, they're terrorists, they're gonna no, it's not that. It's literally just a simple fact of respecting other people's countries. Like, you know, I don't want, because like in some countries, soldiers will trump like those countries' own laws and get special treatment and stuff. It does happen, not in all of them, but in some cases they do, because they're American. And we don't do that with their citizens or soldiers if they come over here. We don't give them special treatment. In some cases, we treat them worse. And to me, that's extremely unfair. Right. So, you know, one of the things that would be beneficial to, like, the budget is to shut down overseas military bases. Because there's, about 80 of them, I think? So let's say if you just, for starters, let's reduce it gradually over time. Start with, like, shut down 25% of them, or maybe even just 15%, you know, in places that we don't really need them right now. And I also kind of want to elaborate a little bit on two things. The reason why Iran is under a dictatorship is because we killed their democratic elected leader in the early 50s. And one of the reasons why 9/11 happened is because our support of Israel since Israel's inception. And it's for a number of reasons why. Zionism, usher in the rapture, oil, real estate, kill all the brown people in the Middle East because white supremacy. It's never just one reason, it's a multitude of reasons. And Joey and I are definitely on the side of, like, we want to stop that, because this planet is our home. It belongs to all of us, everybody on this planet, and everybody deserves the right to be here.
I had someone reach out to me on one of my posts, and they asked if I
globalize the Intifada?
No.
Or condemn the Intifada?
I don't pay attention to those kind of posts. I mean, that's if you want to criticize some critical, it's fine. But no, it was some lady, I wish I forget her name, I'm sorry, and I would look at my post, I'm sorry, I forget your name. I can't remember, I'm not that well with names. So last name was Parker or whatnot, Sarah or something. Anyway, she said her husband was in the IDF or whatnot, and she was leaning to support Michael McCord's campaign because I didn't respond to her post or whatever. And I did apologize. I didn't see her post. Unfortunately, as a candidate for Congress, I get a lot of posts, and I'm like, I don't have to make excuses relative to other candidates. I don't have a social media team, so I'm doing it all by myself.
And me.
And I would say, to her that, I actually told her, I was like, I would love to talk to your husband. I don't mind. I don't mind what you did in the past or whatever. Whoever's in our district, I'm here to, support you, to serve you. I don't care if you vote for me, didn't vote for me, whatever. I believe everyone in America deserves a fair shot at the American dream, a better life, a good representatives from your government, anything. And I would ideally like that in the world. I want world peace. I want peace in the Middle East. I want a two-state solution. I don't like to go back and forth with the whole Israel Gaza thing. I know I do speak about AIPAC a lot because I don't like AIPAC's involvement. I have called what Israel has done genocide. I have said that Israel does occupy Gaza, but that's not because I'm anti-Semitic, because I don't like Israel, because anything like that. It's because I'm not a fan of the Israeli government. I think they are harming their own people, because when you occupy a nation and you go to the West Bank and you try to annex pieces of property and running the stores and do whatever it may be, and harass people, go to Gaza, in this carpet bomb, all that kind of stuff, control food, control the airspace, control borders. You're radicalizing a population of people by oppressing them, and it's like, I'm not saying that, and again, I don't want violence. October 7th, I condemn it fully, full stop. That was wrong. I don't support Hamas at all. I don't support, that's ridiculous, and what happened, I feel terrible for all the victims, but it's
just been a back and forth for decades.
I'm just so tired of it. And it's like, I feel like groups like AIPAC and all of them, even in America, it's like we feed into it instead of just solving the problem and bringing it to a two-state solution. We have kind of forgotten that and stopped talking about that, and I think that needs to be a big goal of ours in foreign policy-wise in the Middle East, is to get some stability in the region, get a two-state solution, stop whatever Trump's doing right now, because I don't want to see Gaza become a beach wharf on property or whatnot with whatever. Israel too. I want Israelis to be safe. I love everyone. I really do. I just don't think Bibi Netanyahu and his cabinet are looking out for the best interests of their people. I think that that they are risking, that they are putting them in danger by causing so much violence. It's like, what if you killed my daughter, man? Because yes, Hamas attack. That's totally wrong. That's totally wrong. It is. Again, I condemn it, full stop. But if you come back because someone did something to you and you kill my daughter,
eye for an eye,
I'm gonna take your head off, man. Do not, like, what? Like, and that's what I've seen. Like, and people I've even seen Republicans, people at work, people who don't even know nothing about politics, have seen what's going on in the Middle East, and they're like, wow, my tax dollars fund this shit. Like, I mean, I've seen people from all across the aisle, even in the vet tech field. I've seen doctors who said this. This is, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, that was a big issue, and that was a big issue why I think we lost, why Trump is back in office, and that's sad because I don't think he's not the peace candidate. But I also don't think, I don't think Kamala Harris was the peace candidate as either. I don't think she would have done as bad. I don't want to get into all that, but I just think that it was a massive mistake of how much support we put into Israel when they. At first, it was okay. They get attacked. They were our allies. Okay, but it went way too far, and we were giving them way too much money, way too much weapons at a point, and they weren't. We're giving that money. You have to kind of respect our word a bit, and I feel like Bibi Netanyahu was just doing whatever he wanted to do, and then now you got him in the Trump administration, and I hear he's in the Situation Room, and that to me, and that to anyone. Gosh, this phone. Sorry, y'all. I wish this phone would stay up. For anyone, that should scare you. I mean, we literally, no matter who it may be, I mean, we had a foreign leader in our Situation Room, and they told our president to get out because he's so
demented.
And no, he's like he's unstable,
Stable,
unpredictable, and he's very impatient. And they thought his impatience were gonna hurt whatever was going down. So from what I've read in reports, Bibi Netanyahu sold this war to Trump very like, hey, we need to go now. Iran's, they're going to build a nuke, blah, blah, blah. I've been hearing this for so long, and also Trump, you did pull out the Iran nuclear deal.
They've been saying they're building nuclear, it's 2 weeks
and then
away
also,
or a day away.
Like, we just bombed Iran, right? We just had this mission before this war where you said you took out their whole entire nuclear capabilities, that they weren't going to build a nuke, and then and you go at them again, like it's insane.
So was it a lie?
And now we're paying all this. We're paying higher prices in gas. We're wasting billions of dollars on another war, and at what benefit do the American people get? And I know people are going to say, "Oh, well, they said they want to kill Americans." Okay, they probably did.
Death to America means the government, not the people.
Right, and I mean, look what America. I'm not hating on America, but look what we
have done.
Look what we do.
We're not always the hero.
And then also,
and we need to own that. We haven't been the hero to our own people.
Look what what we do, and then again, that's not an anti-American stance. Like we, do better.
Because we want to do better.
Right. I did lost.
No, it's okay because I need to move on anyway. It's a hot topic. I mean, because this is stuff that's been happening for decades, even before we were born, because of just a bunch of greedy, hateful ass people who just want all the money, power, resources, and a little bit of drama, because people love drama. And also because they ain't got shit to do, and also they want to rape kids and whatever. But anyway, I digress. So this actually ties into, or no, this one, not this one. The question after that will. What will you do, speaking of rights, what will you do to protect people's rights and votes from being stripped? And
so I think we need to revisit, bring the whole strengthen the Voting Rights Act again. It's been stripped by the Supreme Court very badly. We used to have, what was called federal pre-clearance, to where if certain states were going to make changes to their election, the Justice Department had to sign off on those changes first. And as soon as that got struck down in Shelby versus Holder, states went crazy and went on these whole little voter suppression law trip, like what we saw with Georgia, Texas, all that kind of stuff. So I want to strengthen the Voting Rights Act. I would like to bring back, federal pre-clearance to make sure, and that's not to federalize elections. Like, that's not a crazy thing. Like I said, we've been doing this for a minute. That's to make sure that the laws that you're enacting as a state do not violate the Constitution, do not violate any civil liberties of the voters. And I also want to expand voting access, dramatically. Election day should be a holiday one. Early voting we should have across the entire country. It should be very easy. I think they should also be, make sure public transportation is available for elections. You could do stuff. You could even have, local governments, whatever it may be, help people get to the polls. I know other groups do that. I also want to, expand mail-in voting. I loved during COVID how it was that, click one button on Georgia and you could have, your absentee ballot. And now you need a printer and you need to do this and that, and because they're restricting down on voting rights because they saw, Democrats use absentee balloting, and it's just, we need a standard and we need to stop changing these laws, strict, changing voting laws so fast just to restrict voting rights or just to see for one party to get an advantage, election upon election based upon what happened, last election, if that makes sense, to try to gain an advantage on the next election.
Yeah.
So I want to strengthen voting rights, and there they have for that.
It is just protect people's rights.
I want to bring, and this has shocked me very much. This hasn't been brought up during this race. I have not heard anyone say bring back restore Roe versus Wade at all.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I want to restore Roe versus Wade, and I know
there's so many issues going on. It's hard to keep up with everything.
In the Dobbs case, they did overturn Roe, right? But they did not say that Congress cannot write laws to regulate abortion, healthcare services, abortion, whatever it may be. They did not say that. So you don't need a constitutional amendment to do this. You just need a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate with a Democratic president to get it done. And I want to bring that back. I'm also, and yeah, I think it's like I said, that was very shocking that no one in this race mentioned Roe versus Wade.
No one's also
time.
mentioned, and I'm kind of shocked too, that Michael, considering he's gay and has an immigrant husband, I kind of just want to say too, if Michael watches this, California progressive policies allow people like you and me to get married, especially you who is married with an immigrant husband, per what you said on your Facebook social, if I'm not mistaken.
When it comes to gay, gay marriage, also
that's not an attack.
I've never had, my mother's is in New Jersey, she's my best friend, and she is married to a woman, but I've never had, my mom call me and be fearful that her marriage or her rights were going to get stumbled because of this new administration. And it's so simple. You love who you love, and it is what it is. Again, I'm big on civil liberties. I do not want the government involved in your personal life, whether it be the doctor's office, who you marry, your bedroom,
what your gender identity is,
what book you read, all this kind of stuff. The government has overstepped their boundaries so much when it comes to, surveillance and controlling our personal lives. And I think they need to do it. It's a big priorities problem. They need to do more about trying to help people and stop trying to control them so much. If that makes sense,
a lot of people have control issues.
Their job should be simply to defense protection, which is a Republican. I know it's a bit a typical politics talk about national defense, but that's a given. They do have to protect us, and also but to lift your citizens up, when at all times, make sure people have a livable wage, they can afford health care, they have access to housing, all that kind of stuff. That's what the government should do. Not, again, like I said earlier, put a boot on your neck, not...
What it shouldn't do is tell you who you are.
And then, right, and also, yes.
It should provide all the necessities you need to live, but it shouldn't tell you who you are as a person. That's for you to decide.
Right, I mean, she has less rights than her grandma. That's fucking...
Post-birth.
Right.
She's got... Pre-birth, she's got more rights than you do.
That's insane. And then, right, when she was... Right.
And I kind of also...
When she was, you're right. So you're right. When she was in her mother's belly, she had basically more rights in Florida than she did, in a lot of others. It's just insane to me. We really do need to bring back Roe versus Wade, make it the law of the land again. It was the one compromise that we had that I think was agreeable for both sides, to where it hit fetal liability. It wasn't radical, it wasn't extreme. There wasn't no, women don't want to, a long-term abortion, or the late-term abortion, whether it may be.
Which doesn't happen.
Unless their life is at risk.
Literal medical emergency. Like an ectopic pregnancy.
And even with me, it's just crazy, because even with me, even in my life, I was a bit, pro-life as it is, because I love kids. I really do. I like having kids. I love all my kids. I have 4 of them. Some weren't biologically mine. I really like kids. But I'm also pro-choice, though. But again, I wouldn't inflict any of, and I would never control any of my a partner of mine, whatever it may be. That's their choice. I don't inflict my views onto you. Yes, I would ideally like to have a child with someone, if it's the right situation and need be. But I get certain situations turn up, and again, I don't want the government in your life. Period. It's
not in that regard. No, because sometimes I hear people say things like, "Oh, abortion, that's just a crack whore, birth control." I would rather a drug addicted woman to use abortion as birth control, than for a child to be born and neglected, as it so often is in this country, due to or because of things like that. It takes a village to raise a child, and one of the things that this country loves to perpetuate is the individualism, that you only need a mother and a father. It's like, no, you need a whole city to take care of one child, because that's what we're seeing right now, is so many millennials and Gen Z parents and even younger Gen X parents and older millennial parents literally stressing themselves because they're having to take care of their children on their own. They have no help or assistance whatsoever. And I'm not talking about food stamps or whatnot. I'm talking about literal child care on their own. Like Joey himself is trying to run a campaign with 4 kids and a job of like driving Lyft, etc.
Yeah, I quit my job to drive the vet tech to drive Lyft. Everyone wants to say it's that. I'm gonna tell you how much stock I put in this race real quick. Obviously, campaigning takes a lot. I knew I was going to run in 2024. I was the first candidate this is not bragging, I don't brag. I was the first, this is realistic. I was the first candidate to step in the force that I was ready to run this race. I had it all planned, I stopped becoming a vet tech and set my work aside and became a gig worker to work for Lyft and Uber to drive my car, to be able to make it to all these events. And it was vet techs don't make much money. We're not in it for the money, but it was a little bit of a pay cut and steady hours, and I'm putting wear and tear on my car, and I also got in a car. But not to make excuses, but I put a lot of stock in this campaign, and it's a lot of obstacles came up. We had to raise the ballot fee. People think we're gonna do that. We did that. I raised all the money. Most of it, not 80% of it, came from here, in Georgia in this first congressional district. So I'm very proud of what we did, and I don't think people know how much I put on the line for this campaign, because I truly believe I could win this I can win because we keep on running the same types of candidates over and over and over again and getting worse results. And I don't mean as an insult to anyone else, because I know people that are running that have ran before. I don't mean to insult any of my opponents.
But he's just talking in general.
On the Democratic side, I just think that y'all are not what we need. You're not as relatable to regular working class folks like myself. I know that you try to hit the message, but I don't personally feel it, and that's not even. I'm not even saying it because I'm your opponent. I just mean that person. That's what I've seen. I haven't seen enough talk on the issues. Like I just said, why wasn't Roe mentioned? Why isn't Israel getting mentioned? I just don't know if they know what a congressperson does and how much power you truly have, and that you're writing laws for the entire, not just district, but the entire state, the entire country, the entire world. It's a very big job, and stuff's bad. We have bad representation. We really do. We need someone who to seriously shake shit up, and also isn't bought, isn't paid for, isn't a millionaire, and also understands the issues. I'm not saying I don't like to make excuses. I'm a working class dad. I know I do. I have swiped an EBT card. I have used WIC. Little girl. I know how these programs work. I know what's broken. I know how to fix it. So it's like I don't want to. I'm not going to go there. And I said it before. I don't go there and I'm not going to go to Washington and just throw shit at a wall and see what sticks. I know where our problems are. I know what to fix it. Like right away, boom, child tax credit, month child tax credit, cut child poverty in half in 1 year. That's a given. We've already done it. Do it. We know what works. We just don't have the political will to do it, and I'm telling you, we just need a new Congress with people who are actually willing to fight like hell to get it done.
A younger Congress.
And yes, a younger Congress. And I proudly wear the youngest person in this race's badge. I proudly wear the only working class persons in this race's badge, and I proudly wear the only Democratic, Socialist, or Progressive person in this race's badge.
And if I was able to run, I would be all that, but younger than you. Because I'm younger than you, I think, by a year. I'm 33, and you're 34?
Yeah, I just turned 34.
Oh, that's right,
I just turned 35.
Oh, that's right. Happy birthday. I turned 34 in August.
It's okay.
No, that's okay, baby girl. All right, so this one you're going to really like talking about. Patrick, this is for you. Let's see, where can I find it? Because I actually wrote this question down. Aha! So this is going to coincide with each other. AI is a hot topic, as all of these things. One candidate suggested, and I already called him out, public ownership. Do you agree, and how would you implement it? And the question from the forum was, are data centers good for Georgia?
I don't think data centers are good for Georgia. I think they are getting massive subsidies from the government, and they create very few jobs. You'll see a small construction boom of about 1,000 workers, and permanent jobs is about very few. I've seen as few as one. Literally, it's not a good investment. You know, I do think that innovation in AI is important. I just think who is benefiting needs to look at it. You know, like I said before, it needs to be the working class, not the billionaire class. If workers are going to be more productive, we need to look at things like, you know, this is how you do. This is what I don't want. See, when Pat said public ownership, it's freaking out because it seemed like he wanted the government to own it. And if you think about that, in my eyes, I'm like, what if a man like Donald Trump was in office and he owned
AI?
He had control over AI. That'd be crazy to me. You know, so I don't know how you would quote unquote do a whole public ownership, but you can make sure people benefit from it and make sure the public benefits. It's our data. You can do it as, you know, you tax data and make it a public wealth fund. That public wealth fund can go to displaced workers to make sure they get jobs, can go to make sure they're getting paid if they're off, you know, if they did lose said job. There's so much things you can do with, you know, with AI and, you know, making sure the public benefits. But I think we need to slow down right now, tremendously, put a moratorium, stop building all these data centers, see what the long-term harm is on,
which we kind of already know,
on our environment, our, you know, or the economy, on consumers, on workers, and just kind of, you know, go from there. I'm not gonna. We don't need to protect big tech. They're fine. It's not gonna. I've seen ads say it's gonna help China. It's not. Again, clear, smart regulations is better than just building a bunch of data centers that create, again, basically no jobs, and then just fixing the mess that it's going to create afterwards from all the automation.
Not to mention the cost of electricity bills.
We need to do it before. And if these companies are, and if we are going to build data centers, I want you to build your own power. You know,
use solar power.
Solar, wind,
hydro.
Yes, and then that power, excess power, needs to go back to the grid to lower costs for consumers as well. We should not be subsidizing these big data centers so much when they create such few jobs, and I think we need to, again, put a moratorium and stop building them for right now and get some clear regulations and clear understanding of what this industry does. But I don't like the fact people say AI is not inevitable or whatnot. I don't even. It's like that's getting a debate of just a term of people saying is it inevitable or not. Listen, AI they started looking into AI in 1980, y'all. 1980. So this is not something new. The government started researching it in 1980. So the public does, you know.
It's new to the public, but it's not new.
I'm so public-wise. So we're talking public like Pat, as I say, like I thought Pat did, was public meaning government. The public or government has been investing in AI, art research and development for decades and decades and decades. So, you know, we should benefit from it in a sense. But I don't want to, you know, get there and nationalize a whole entire industry and give it to the federal government when I don't trust our federal government, and also I don't believe in nationalizing industries and taking a bunch of, you know, power away. I think AI can be a great tool to workers actually to make them more productive, and they should benefit. Like, for instance, if I'm more productive, then, you know, we could look at things like a 32-hour, a 4-day work week with 32 hours and, you know, no pay cut because I'm more productive with artificial intelligence. I'm not saying we have to do that, but it's just a look of an idea of what you can do with this enhanced, this tool that, again, enhances productivity, among other things. I think it has benefits and non-benefits, and again, I think we need to look at who it benefits and make sure it benefits the working class.
So next question would be, how will you take back congressional powers from the executive branch?
I think we need to repeal a lot of laws, like especially around war powers, like the authorization of use of military force that gives a blank check, you know, for the presidents of both parties. You know, like Obama did in Libya and Trump's doing in Iran to start wars. Look at war powers resolutions. I think Congress needs to take back their power, but here's where here's my policy wonky stuff. I think that it's
that really got under your skin.
No, I actually like it. I really do. I like the term because that's really true. because I look at stuff that in depth, and I hope people appreciate that, is Congress reacts very, very, very slow, extremely slow. So that's why I think the executive branch has gotten an increase of power, because Congress can't do their damn jobs, like even pass a budget on time. So I want to see Congress work more and start to work more efficiently, and then pull back other stuff from the executive branch, if that makes sense. Of course, wars, I'm ready to go like right now, but other things that they do around stuff, like creating, like, for instance, like forgiving student debt. I'm fine with the executive branch doing that. Do that all day. That's a smart policy, and the Higher Education Act does give you that power, despite what everyone says. So yeah, I think Congress, a big thing to get that done is just Congress needs to start doing their job, because in the sense, if we have an emergency like COVID, how quick are you going to respond to fix the economy, to stabilize it? That's why I think also too we've relied so much on the Federal Reserve and entered this age of easy money, which has also fueled inflation, because interest rates have been artificially low for so long, is because we rely on the Fed to do our monetary policy, because Congress again sucks and can't do their damn job, and also seem like they don't want to do their job because they're on recess about every
5 minutes, it seems like.
So they're never at work, and they don't do their jobs when they're there. So get the hell to work, get off rest, and do your jobs.
Old Magic Mike over there.
What I'm gonna do if I get elected. I will push y'all to work. I don't care. I don't care if I have to be the only one in Congress. I'll sit in front of the hall and with whatever and call them all. Call them all to come back and embarrass all of them. Get your asses up there and work.
So, these are my own personal questions from like before. I want to thanks again if anybody from Jessup at that forum watches this, who orchestrated and organized and came up with these questions. Thank you so much for providing them to me, especially I'm going to say Dr. Johnson or Mr. Johnson. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I didn't do it word for word, but I wanted to keep it like short and simple. So moving on, our country has suffered from heavy propaganda since the beginning and the end of the Cold War, such as putting God in the Pledge of Allegiance, on the dollar, the Congressional Hall, etc. If elected, would you try to reverse this and bring back secularity and e pluribus unum?
Yeah, I don't like the fact that our government right now and the Republican Party is being so this whole Christian nationalist movement. I don't like that.
It's evangelical shit.
I want this separation. I don't care what religion you are, whether it be Jewish, Christianity, Muslim. I don't care. I really don't. Atheist. It doesn't matter to me. Love all y'all. I'm gonna represent all y'all. For the government,
the extremism of
for the government to shove it down your throat, infuriates me
and violates the First Amendment.
And then you got to keep the church and the state separate. Period. And I've seen stuff like even like this administration, try to say that
Candace Taylor tried to say in that one forum we went to, just because it was in a letter, if it was mentioned in a letter, the ideology was there to begin with. Our country is a secular nation.
So I believe in the separation of church and state, and also when it comes to even these churches, I've seen this administration with the IRS loosen rules, and some of these churches are getting very, very political.
The mega churches.
And I don't like that, and if you're going to do that, I'm going to tax you.
Because they don't pay property tax. Mind you, a little theology, or whatever, there's nothing in the Bible about giving to the church money. Nothing, to my knowledge, from what I've read. There's nothing in the Bible that mentions people have to give the church money. That is an evangelical thing, started in about around the 60s, but it really took off in the 80s under Reagan's administration, because it was the evangelical cults and the Heritage Foundation, etc., that got him into power more or less. And, they've been there kind of ever since, the whole Satan panic of the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, etc. And you see it almost in every Republican, speeches or whatever, running as candidates or those in office now, this is a Christian nation. No, it's not. It's not a Christian nation. It would literally violate the First Amendment. Or what was it, Texas implementing the 10 Commandments in public schools, which is against the law. It's against the First Amendment. You cannot do that. Because heaven forbid, like they put in Islam or Quran or Jewish, because I can promise you, evangelicals hate Jewish people. They only support Israel because of the whole prophecy of ushering Jesus and the rapture and everybody goes to heaven and all that shit. Man, it's a very serious thing. But do you think that had E pluribus unum remained the actual motto of the country, like the core foundation, do you think we would be more united than we are now? Do you know what E pluribus unum? Okay.
Yeah, I mean...
It means, what is it?
You said we'd be more united now?
Yeah, would we be more united? Had propaganda during the Cold War era not completely taken over, because it's the one that was.
I think it's hard to say. I think the reason why we're so honestly, I think it's the reason why we're so propagandized right now has to do with the fact that you left the working class basically stranded for like 40 plus years. I think that allowed people to get manipulated because the government no longer worked for them. They felt unseen. They felt heard. They felt forgotten about. And that allowed someone like Trump to come by who speaks, their language to further polarize stuff. And I think it's also this, kind of, money in politics has to do with it too. I think it's the media as well. But this whole, if you look at, go to Google and look at some, stuff from the day. Just look at, Trump or Google Democrats or anything, and I guarantee you'll find one article where it says, AOC or whatever politician slams this. It's like, but they just made a simple, statement. They didn't really.
Yeah. I say that all the time. I hate clickbaity shit.
Yeah,
I hate
you didn't
that.
body slam. Like, it's like, can you just turn the temperature down? Like, I just feel like I don't.
Bernie Sanders destroys this politician or.
I just don't know how we got. It's kind of confusing me. I don't know what
reality TV shit.
All I can say is I just want to bring the temperature down. I will bring the temperature down at least. And I feel like if you fix the economy,
always the economy.
Will the temperature go down as well, because then you can stop manipulating people so much.
Because it's like I was saying earlier, dude. When you look at history, one of the things that got Hitler into power definitely was Germany's economy.
Right.
It was completely destroyed by the Treaty of Versailles, which put all the blame and the debt on Germany, which destroyed its entire economy. And when an economy is failing, which ours is, people's stress goes up, and the more stressed people are, the angrier and the scared they get. The more angrier and the more scared they get, the more violent they become. Mm-hmm. And it's the easiest way to get into power and to say, like, it's this group's fault for your hardships. Even if it's the immigrants' fault, it's the gays' fault, it's women, it's blacks, it's browns, it's Jews, it's something. It's always somebody else's fault, not the ones actually responsible. We see it every day, at least in this country. So I personally think, like, the way to fix that is to literally educate people on actually what's happening, who's doing what. And this is gonna kind of sound a little stupid, but I'm actually kind of glad that Donald got elected for a second term, and that, thank God, we live in the cell phone and internet age, because they are so brass, so bolden, so incompetent, because they are literally run by a malignant narcissist who has got dementia and is dying. Hitler was able to get away with what he did was because he pretty much just killed all his opposition. Donald can't do that. Donald can't kill opposing candidates. He can't kill anybody that opposes him politically or policy-wise or anything like that. The worst he's going to do to this country is literally like divide us, which we were already divided even before he came in. His first term, we were already a divided nation. The worst that he's going to really do is fuck up this economy. That's going to be the worst thing he does.
I'm not scared of. I'm not freaked out of that. I think that it's good that.
But
like you said, a day and age where he can get you know everything that is on the books,
exactly,
documented and whatnot,
and none of this is going away.
I do think we need to strengthen our democracy, but I think for right now it is holding. It is holding for right now.
Because
but we are at a tipping point.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's not at the top of my list of that we need to fix. That I'm not scared of us losing democracy.
Yeah.
I think it should all be a wake up call.
Yeah.
Because all of us have lived with democracy for our whole entire lives, so we don't know what it's like without it.
Exactly.
So I feel like people take that for granted. So it's like trust me, when we don't have it, you are going to freak out, and you are going to feel powerless.
And I kind of want to this is also what I'm getting to, is that this is what gives me hope for the future, is that almost every country that goes through a dictatorship, the immediate next thing afterwards, I know this is going to sound scary for some, is socialism. Or at least some form of socialism, meaning like the welfare of the people becomes the priority, not power, not wealth, not wars or resources or an empire. It becomes okay, we nearly destroyed ourselves. Let's not do that shit again. Let's now actually concentrate on building, rebuilding, building more, and having our necessities met, doing the right thing. Because I kind of want to emphasize a little bit that what Joey and my goal is overall is we want people to do the right thing, which is literally take care of each other, because we need to in order to survive and to thrive. But I'm not saying I'm glad that Donald is committing all these atrocities necessarily. What I'm saying is I'm glad that it's happening in an age of technology, of the internet, where it's everywhere, and that because he's such a narcissist, he brags and boasts, and all his cabinet members are so incompetent they can't help themselves. And this information is going to be here forever as long as it lasts. So my hope is that after we're gone, future generations are going to look back on this and be like, yeah, we're not doing that shit ever again. Because it's easy to forget World War II era shit. It's easy to forget because it was immediately after World War II. What happened in America? A huge economic boom. Soldiers were treated better, except for the African American soldiers, we know. But middle class America saw a huge boom, the baby boomer era, because of infrastructure and building and growth, etc. Because soldiers came back, they needed work, they needed homes, they needed family, they were getting married, they were having kids. You had more medical advances, like the polio outbreak was taken care of, etc., etc., etc. And it lasted up until the late 60s, and then throughout the 70s, it started to go to fucking shit. And then Reagan submitted it with his whole trickle-down economics and blah blah blah. Everybody knows the story. My point is that the reason why, kind of going off what you're saying about not knowing what it's like to not have a democracy, people forgot the reason why America did so well right after World War II, and it's because of one simple word: investment. We're not investing, or at least, well, we are, but our government is not investing like it should be. It stopped during the 70s, and that's why everything has been declining ever since. We should be at the top of the game right now, but we're not. We literally lack in almost every category compared to other countries. Education, healthcare, life expectancies, infant mortality rate, childbirth rate, which childbirth rate is declining across the world. That's a whole nother issue. But just in terms of global categorization, etc., we literally fall behind in a lot of areas, which brings me to my next question. Public education is being attacked by the elites in this country. They want to privatize and segregate based on race, ethnicity, and wealth status. How will you combat this? How will you stop like segregation and privatizing of school?
I'm not gonna. For one, I'm not gonna let any public dollars. I'm not a fan of public dollars going to any private schools
Or charter schools.
So I would repeal the tax credit that Trump passed and the Republicans passed, and the one big beautiful bill that's allowing people to donate to scholarship organizations for private schools and getting a tax cut of that. At the state level, I will apply pressure and make sure, but I will say I'd like to make sure, one, our teachers are paid well, at least $6,000 a year. That'd improve education. I'd like to. I want universal pre-K starting at 3 and 4. I want free community college and trade school.
Free school lunches.
I do run on free school lunches too. That's a big thing for me. And then also when it comes, to civil liberties, my son is disabled. Has Down syndrome, so that's a big one for me. I will I want to strengthen those laws and look at them again. My son's IEP plan is very, very weak down south versus what he would have gotten up north in New Jersey, where the schools are number one in the nation. And I look at healthcare I look at education like healthcare, where it's kind of this patchwork, system that we have going. It's very common in the United States, where everything is so patchworky, and a lot of it depends upon your outcomes depend upon on your zip code. And I want to I want to make sure the funding that is going to the right places. We're improving these programs and not sliding back. Education is, like I said, it's a big one. Obviously extend how people want people educate, and the federal government needs to also watch out for civil rights. That's the big thing I think the federal government needs to do. Also address this student debt, because that is another form of I would say class diversion, but it's also hit
Don't worry, I have a question about that.
It's also hit black folks, Hispanic folks tend to have more student debt than white folks do, and that's unfortunate as well, and it needs to get addressed. I want to forgive the student debt we have in the past, because that was a big, massive mistake. Put more affordable repayment plans, like the SAVE plan, in place, and then again start getting to where we have start education at 3 and don't end until you're older. And also, but like I said, get back to more trades, because it's coming like these my generation got sold that college was this massive fix, and it's to fix everything, and
it's to fix poverty, but it has literally put majority of Americans in poverty.
So I think that also too they forgot to tell us how much trade schools and whatnot makes, and they didn't tell us about the power of unions. Like, I used to work at UPS, for extra. I say it in my speech all the time. It was one of my biggest side jobs as at UPS. And a lot of people don't know, because you're a Teamster there. They are a union. It's a union job all over. That a UPS driver is making over $100,000 a year. I mean, you're making a ton of money, and you're set for life. You got free healthcare, all this kind of stuff. So it's like I want to see it's just the direction I want to get back to. It's doing more stuff like that to make it more equitable.
See, my thing is that, like, I have students, and I'm not saying that, like, it's not my responsibility, but education is a human right, in my opinion. It is a basic human right. We all need to be educated, and I'm not saying that to sound like a smart ass. I mean it. We all need to be educated. Education is literally what breeds individuality and critical thinking, and to question everything. And it leads to progression in terms of technology invention, healthcare, advances, housing advances, everything. And we are so far behind. We've been behind since the 70s in terms of education. And it's just because a bunch of people believe that people like you and I don't deserve to have a higher education. We should be able to say what 2 plus 2 is and then go work in their factory or their multi-billion-dollar profit a year,
Again, like with this too, like
supermarket.
With education, I'm okay with the states and local governments, quote unquote, specialize in the education to fit those local / state needs, because every state is different and every local area is different. But there needs to be like a federal standard floor, whatever you may call it, that these
curriculum.
That these states cannot go past, and whatever we're doing right now is not working.
Because one state will learn something and another state will learn something else.
One candidate said we need to relook at No Child Left Behind. We already repealed that. If no one didn't.
God, I hope so, because that was terrible.
We already replaced No Child Left Behind. Barack Obama did it, but we still are having terrible outcomes. So clearly, this is not working either. So we need to seriously look at what we're doing with education. Other countries are literally are blowing us out of the water, and it's because I think a lot of it's to do with how we again don't fund it. I want to see more teachers who live in the community, teach in the community, so pay them well, offer them forms of student debt relief, stuff like that, to keep to keep that local. They know their community is the best. They're going to teach their students the best. They care a lot. I don't force them out of those communities. I think we'll see a massive difference, and also again raise their pay, make sure these schools get more funding, do better classes like civics classes, stuff like that, so kids are actually educated on the right topics, and stop trying to polarize education so much around politics. The two should not. They should mix, but it shouldn't be partisan.
Because everything is politics.
It just shouldn't be partisan. That you shouldn't be feeding the kid, any child, just one Democratic message or one
It should
Republican
be secular.
message. Like like a look at the fairness doctrine and stuff. It should be. You should hear both sides correctly with both sides' opinions correctly, both sides' opinions. Without any misinformation, and then make your decision from there based upon what you agree, instead of someone just giving you one form of information like Fox News or whatever it may be, and then you making your opinion off of that because that's all you know and that's all you see.
Yeah. So moving on, if confronted, are you willing to legally divulge any past run-ins with law enforcement and officials?
That stuff don't bother me at all.
Okay. Just because what I wanted to get across with that question is just like, basically, just what I want to say is like, are you going to be transparent with the public about pretty much everything?
Yeah, transparency is huge. Transparency is huge to be an elected official, especially a big thing for me is like who you're meeting with in office is one too. Like who are you meeting with defense contractors and voting a bill on this? Who I think Congress needs to be much more transparent, and like along lines of like I don't have much to do like with assets and stuff. I don't have to show y'all I own assets. I'll tell you right now I do own some stocks. It's like $2,000 in stocks, and like I have a little over a K in a 401k, but that's minuscule stuff. But even that, like I don't care. I would sell it real quick. I would have it. And to me, what Congress gets paid for is way more. Their salary is way more than what they are than what they're doing right now. If that makes sense, they don't work enough to get paid that much money.
And I want to state that Georgia's Congress or congressman for this district would make roughly $174,000 a year. Me and Joey have talked about that before because I was trying to run and I was like, I could live off that for the rest of my life every year. Oh yeah, I'm fine with that, because no one should be going into this position in any jurisdiction to enrich themselves. This is not what our government is meant for. There's a reason why the president makes only $400,000 a year. This is a public servant position. I'm not saying public servants shouldn't be paid their like what they're owed, because this is a lot of work. I mean, public service is a lot of work, but it's insane to me that like millionaires and billionaires get into these low-paying positions, and then they just use that power they have to enrich themselves even further. And it's kind of like pissing on the working class, especially people who work in local and state governments who make less than $100,000 a year, including like teachers who are a public servant, or police officers, fire department, etc. To me, it's such a tremendous insult to, like, if I was a millionaire and I got into office for that. 1 second, baby. Kind of want to say here too that even though Joey and I agree a lot on these issues, my personal opinions on certain things aren't necessarily a reflection on his personal opinions on things. I will take the time real quick to also say thank you to everybody who's watching, especially if you've gotten this far. I still have a few more questions to go, because I want to try and get as much information out there as possible for everybody. Again, thank you so much. I don't really know what to say. Here he's back. Okay. But yeah, I was just saying that, like, it's kind of like a piss on. It's kind of like what Donald's doing right now with the ballroom and all the renovations in DC he's doing. It's kind of like pissing on Americans. It's like, haha. I got into this position, and now I'm going to use my power to enrich myself even further. And to me, it's extremely unfair. But it's good that you want to be as transparent. If I was running and if I got elected, I would have no problem if anybody say, "Can you show us, what your bank account?" Okay, here you go. You're going to see mostly food, video games, and maybe some like traveling during my vacation time. That's it. No stock trading, because I don't know how to do any of that shit. I don't care to do that, because that's so complicated. And to me, it's gambling, and I don't like gambling. But that's me. No offense to the gamblers out there. I know some of y'all like to do that, because I actually have gambled before, and it is fun. It's just...
I'm from New Jersey, so I used to go to AC all the time.
That's right, Atlantic City.
You know me, and I think I told you before I like stocks too, but...
To me, it's so corporate,
we all
and
got
like...
our own thing. You know what I mean? We all got our own things. I do it. I do it to try to make a little bit of money here and there, and I will say, like, I use my... to get off topic or whatnot, but I use my political knowledge to invest smartly, because they're doing it. So why am I'm not saying like I'm making money, but off of inside information. But you can tell what they're going to do, if that makes sense. If a CHIPS Act's passed, invest in semiconductors. I made a risk and whatnot, and then you may make.
But would you? That's actually a good thing you said that, though, because people then, well, if he's doing it when he's not in office, what's going to prevent him from doing it when he's in office? So,
because I'm going to ban stocks. I want to ban stock trade to begin with, and I'll have no access to any stock account at all with my money. I don't even want to put it in a trust. When I'm in Congress, I make a pledge that I will not own any stock whatsoever, minus, of course, your 401k, which retirement like that. And even then, I don't think you don't even need that. I probably wouldn't even invest in that during Congress. If I was to have put some of my salary in a 401k, I would make sure it's in a blind trust and have someone else manage it. But I don't even think you need that, because you get so much of a pension, a public that big pension you get in Congress, depending on how much you serve. I don't even think that's even necessary to even look into a 401k that much. I just want to be, I don't want to live. I'm not a wealthy. I don't want to live like a wealthy person again. That salary of 174 is enough for me. I even made a pledge on a post the other day. I was like, if I go to Congress and I don't get, if y'all are getting good health care, I'm not gonna take your subsidized health care, like, because you go to members of Congress go through, DC link, so the DC, Washington DC, health exchange, to get, ACA plans, and of course they're subsidized by taxpayers. So, even I wouldn't feel comfortable taking that when a normal person who wasn't in Congress wouldn't be eligible for any tax credits at that point. That's kind of sickening to me. I don't like that at all.
And I kind of want to elaborate on my opinion a little bit here too about this, is that like Joey talking about like that's, he's interested in that and I'm not. I don't want to live in a country where we all have to participate in like gambling schemes or like stock trading or owning multiple properties to rent out to other. Like if you want to do that yourself, that's great. Again, this is just my opinion, but like kind of elaborate or kind of like to dig into my hit or whatever a little bit. I wanted to be a film director. That's my main interest, like what I really want to do, my dream job. That's what I went to school for and have worked in the film and television industry for 10 years in the Savannah area. Unfortunately, I haven't made it, obviously. I only recently got into politics after voting in 2024, and I've always cared about people and I've always cared about doing the right thing. But why I'm doing this now is because like this is the only way I can like actually go out and help people. And my point is that what I want us to get to is a system that works for everybody's interests. Like if you want to be a chef or a stock trader or a politician or a businessman or artist, etc., we should have systems put into place that help everybody achieve those things. And my point to you about like stock trading, I don't necessarily think stock trading is a bad thing. I think what has become a bad thing about it is that our government is solely relying on the stock market as a representation of our economy as a whole. It's not. It is such a small, minute thing in our overall economy. Our economy's biggest thing is our spending. Like our spending. And if we don't have the money to do it, then it's not going to grow. The stock market indication is a corporate fucking wealth status. Right. And that shit's always fluctuating.
Even to me, I think it can always be something like this. So the government looks like this. The government looks at GDP, CPI, the stock market, whatever it may be, all these crazy numbers that don't reflect on our lived realities of at least my world. So we need to find another way to evaluate how people are living, because members of Congress, presidents, whatever it may be, they are so out of touch with the regular American like myself. Like I said, stocks for them and me is different. Yeah. I'm going to invest in a stock in the beginning of the month, put it in Cash App, and try to gain a few dollars to pay my rent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And cash it out at the end of the month. I might lose some. I mean, most of the time I win some. Not to brag, but it's just because the market typically always goes up. You know how it is. But for anyone, in a sense, they're investing for wealth. I'm investing for
survival.
To try to make my money at least something more
for survival.
Than what is. And yes, a bit for that.
This is what poverty breeds for people in our position. The top elites or whatever, like you said, doing it to increase their vast wealth that they already have. And I want to also elaborate a little bit too. A lot of these rich people are Nepo babies. They didn't work for their wealth. It was all handed to them through their parents, mostly their daddies. And a lot of it they got through buying up other companies and stock investing and assets and all this other really complicated stuff that I'm just like, Jesus Christ. But how does anybody keep up with all this shit? And I was like, why can't we just live simply? But anyway, my point is that like I don't think everybody needs to be a stockbroker in order to survive in this country or world. And I want to get to the point to where we don't have to do that. because, you know, we shouldn't be, the working class people shouldn't be committing fraud to survive. You know, we can all agree on that. Nobody should be committing fraud to survive. But we also have to hold the top accountable for committing the same fraud, if not more. And it's not because they're trying to survive. It's literally just because they just want more wealth. You know, I can understand a poor person stealing from a grocery store to feed themselves. I can't understand or get behind somebody who's worth $20 billion and, you know, wants a $4 trillion tax cut. For what? Like, bitch, what are you buying? Like,
I mean, I think
is it
you have like
hookers and crack? Like,
they'll pay their workers. Well, I mean, I just think.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I ideally.
And that's if they own a company.
I just died. Yeah, that died.
It's okay. I'm still recording.
I mean, ideally, there wouldn't be any. Like I said, in an ideal country, we wouldn't even need unions. Everyone would be, you know, just there'd be a moral standard of, you know, pay good, benefits, yada yada yada. But, you know, of course, that's not how it is today, and we need unions to, you know, get collective bargaining and get better wages and fight back. So it's a tough position to be in America today, definitely.
And I also still want to elaborate and encourage anything that me or Joey get like actually factually wrong. Please correct us in the comments. We will not attack. We will literally, if it's actually correct, we will be like, oh shit, we didn't know. Now we know. Because one of the things that I've talked to Joey about is that my thing about all of this is that I want all of us to work together. You know, Joey's talked about it before in other forums about how he wants people to come to him and bring him solutions or problems and solutions, because we really do have to work together. We can't keep going this like individualism ideology where it's every man for himself. I mean, that's survival of the fittest too, but like the whole lone wolf, or what is that stupid ad thing about the lone penguin walking to the mountain. The penguin dies. The lone penguin dies. Once it leaves its herd, or whatever the technical term for penguin gathering or whatever, the flock. Once it leaves, it dies on its own because it cannot survive on its own. Same thing with a lone wolf. A wolf is a pack animal. A wolf cannot survive on its own, and we are the same. We cannot survive on our own. Which leads me to this next question, actually, because this does correlate. The race in District 1 is proving to be pretty heated. Certain candidates seem to be attacking one another. Do you condone this, and how do you prevent yourself from smearing or attacking others? And there have been allegations made against you and your supporters. Which ones are true and which ones are false, of any of the ones that you can remember?
None of the allegations against me have been made true. I mean, someone mentioned, I don't know who its supporters are coming from, but someone said something about me being high or something like that. I can tell you that I am transparent and I enjoy, you know, cannabis as anyone else was. You know, I have
majority Americans do.
I have extreme anxiety. I'm comfortable talking about that, and you know that actually I used to take a stronger anxiety medication. I still take medication for that now, but cannabis was able to lower the amount of anxiety medication needed, and then the strength. So I do that. I mean, I'm not saying I'm doing it for a debate. I mean, to go for it to bed. So I don't know what people talk about on that, and that's not. I don't think of that as high. That's less dangerous than alcohol, and I don't even drink. I don't like drinking. So, and then I mean, other than that, I haven't really got any crazy allegations against me. I would say the other.
It was like attacking other candidates.
So I don't mind the attacking the other candidates. It just depends what you're attacking them on. You know, I said this from the beginning of the race that I will attack you all day on policy and politics, which includes things like what's your stances on policy, did you grab an endorsement from a corporate Democrat, all that kind of stuff is politics. I could give three shits what you did personally before this. I care about the issues, and are you going to GSD or whatever and then just get shit done. That's all I want. I don't care where you stand and whatnot. You know, some of the attacks like we saw in the debate or whatnot, they may land with that, you know, they're trying to get it did get its attention, I guess, and whatever, but it's sad that got its attention and was the focus of a debate, when again it should always be on the policies. And I think that event at the debate and other events that we've seen online with, you know, candidates getting heated into each other have overlooked some really good policy talking points, and also some points that show that some of these candidates in this race do not know policy have bit them in the ass.
Yeah.
Basically.
So these next questions, actually, we've kind of touched on already. Student debt, I'm for canceling all of it, not just public servants, but for all Americans. I'm for it, because it is definitely crushing the middle class for damn sure, and millennials and Gen Z, for sure. Like, you know, previous generations have had a more advantage to college education, and were able to. I've heard so many people from boomers or even older Gen X say, you know, I was able to pay for it. Why can't you? Because most colleges these days are almost over $200,000 on average, and if the minimum wage is $7.25, and like most places aren't hiring, and most places that are want ridiculous requirements, they want you to have like a 20-year, you know, experience. Okay, well, I'm like 25 years old and I just graduated college. Like, the fuck, you know? And you want me to master's degree for an entry level pay? Like, are you insane? Like, you know, I'm sure somebody out there is going to like side with me on this. Take a look at my position. I paid over $200,000 in going to school to do to get my dream job, and I have made less than $20,000 in 10 years doing my job, or doing that entertainment job. That, to me, that's not fair. That's completely biased and unfair. Like, if I pay that much to go to a college, I should at least get something for it. My career advisor literally said to me, showed me a couple of websites, casting websites, and said, good luck. That was it.
I think that these schools...
There's no guarantee for hiring after college.
Yeah, so if these schools are going to get all these federal funds, it needs to get tied to this. I think there has to be some incentive there to make sure that your students are getting good jobs that reflect what their balance of student debt is. And then you need to also, again, address the mountain of student debt that we've caused due to screwed up policy. And then,
because Sally Mae was a scam.
Ideally, like I said, I'm for, you know, free community college and trade school, even public school for certain people, you know, with depending upon their, you know, working class, middle class folks, you know, that make, you know, $125K, you know, whatever it may be. I'm for all that stuff. Like I said, we need a big thing to me was like during the you know the one-time forgiveness we got offered during COVID. I got approved for it. Obviously, I take it back. One thing for me was I concentrated on the SAVE plan because it was a very big deal that everyone overlooked.
Which expires.
So, and what happened was they got sued after it was in place for a year. So I borrowed off of it, and then now when it got sued, the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, who is one of the most conservative courts in the nation, struck it down. So SAVE was invalid. And then all these borrowers go in limbo. Biden's administration got out of office. Trump is no longer implementing to save the SAVE plan. And then they killed it in the one big beautiful bill to where they're putting everybody on, now it's called RAP, which is repayment assistance plan, which has yet to been implemented yet, to my knowledge. So we'll see what that looks like. But in anyway, your student debt just got a lot higher, or your student loans just got a lot more. So if you're on save, ride it out, and then hopefully we'll get a Democratic Congress in there, including myself, and we'll fix this screwed up student debt situation.
Because to me, it's extremely unfair. It's literally punishing people for going and getting a higher education and doing everything that we were told to do. It's to me, it's puritanical mentality of just like punishing those who are doing what they're told to do. You know, and it's kind of like pulling up the ladder, or like goalpost moving, etc. And I personally think it needs to change. Otherwise, we're not going to make it, into the future. We're not going to have enough doctors and lawyers and teachers and etc. Because it's just going to get too expensive, and then more schools will close, more hospitals will close, and etc. Because I remember in that one forum with Candace talking about Canada's system, long wait times, whatever, and she's like, look it up. I did. You know why they have such long wait times? Underfunded and understaffed. That's always the case for those kinds of things. And if we had public college, think of how many people would go to school to be doctors and lawyers and nurses and technicians and all the essential jobs that we need to live and thrive and survive.
And then even if you up with a shot at Candace Taylor or whatnot, they're a little crazy Republicans, and Marjorie Taylor Greene 9.0 or whatever.
2.0 for damn sure.
So when it comes to, long wait time, I think when she tried to say back with healthcare, I mean, like I told her, look at your HMO. It takes multiple weeks or months to get into a doctor as well. So we're in the same situation with shittier healthcare. So it's not good. Like we need the rest of the world's universal healthcare. We need to transition there, and then again, we need more doctors, nurses, etc.
And the goal overall, it's not to get the perfect system. The goal is literally to get a system that works for all. It's not going to be perfect. Anytime you involve money and people, there's always going to be fraud. Just because, and I like using this analogy, just because somebody steals from Walmart once, it doesn't mean you shut down the whole damn store or corporation. You just hold that one singular individual accountable for what they did. You don't punish the rest of the town because of one person. That's not fair. That's collective punishment. That's not democracy. That's authoritarianism. So I'm going to move on to another question. This one I had about insurances. Do you think we should use insurances overall, such as car, health, housing, etc., or do you think we should go to a more public-funded alternative? Like, for example, regarding cars, I'm going to use this as an example. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but this is my general thinking of it. You have a car insurance. You pay on it every month. You're never late. You get into a car accident. It's not your fault. Your insurance refuses to pay for the damages or whatever. Or the other person's insurance, the ones at fault, refuse to pay for damages to your vehicle. You then have to hire a lawyer. You have to go to court, and that shit can take years, and it's expensive, and it all comes out of your pocket. And maybe you get it all back if you win. So what my point is that I personally think insurances overall are a scam, because they have the power to deny you at any given moment, even if you pay up every single, like, you're never late, whatever, always on time, always in full. Because explain to me how, if you have a health insurance and you're paying a certain amount every month, and let's say you're not sick for about 5 years, you then go to the doctor the 6th year of having that insurance, and you still have a copay. How does that make sense? Doesn't to me. Or like housing. When it comes, because this was something that they were talking about, the realtors thing last night, about like natural disasters and stuff. I think FEMA is a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. That is a safety net. if it's done right, if something happens, they come in, they take care of it. That's what a government is supposed to do. The problem is there's no preventative measures. It's all, we'll just fix it afterwards, or we just won't give a shit and we won't do anything. And it is literally proven that the more preventable investments you make, the more mitigated the damages are after the catastrophe, so it doesn't cost more to repair things.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, my question is, do you think insurances are like the middleman is like an issue, and should we find alternatives to that in all aspects, not just healthcare?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think we need to look at definitely one thing. I want to look at it. Is car insurance. I think a car is essential almost in America. As we will disagree, and I know people get in debates about whatever. We get all there, a car to me is a source of your freedom. It's it's if you have an emergency, you can move in any place in time. If you have kids, that's a big thing. I have a child with special needs, so public transportation for him is hard because he doesn't like loud noises. So put his hands over his ears. He's doing better on the bus now this year, but for his first few years in school, he had to get driven. So people do need cars. You also, if you pick up good stuff, there's also rideshare drivers. All this, we've already built our kind of economy or country around cars. I don't think we need to go up and crazy and expand, highways. If that, I'm going to just off the top real quick, but I don't need to expand highways, but I want to fix the highways we have. That would, of course, lower insurance cost as well, just because our cars getting so much shit because I think we have terrible highways and they're not monitored correctly, and you got all these roundabouts and whatnot. We need to make highways actually safer. That would drive down insurance costs. I think there needs to be more competition in the market, and I think there needs to be more, reforms to where like payouts, and also like, for instance, I'll hit you with this. So I bought a 18 Chevrolet Volt, so the plug-in hybrid, with the $4,000 tax credit, instant tax credit that Joe Biden passed and Democrats passed on the Inflation Reduction Act. So I gave them I transferred my tax credit to them. Within 3 months, the car from Carvana, the engine blew. So I owed $12,000 left on the car, and the new engine was 13 to 14 grand. So I had to, get the car voluntary repoed, and then I'm still stuck with the balance of the loan after they sell the car with a broken engine. That's just not right for consumers. We need to really look at how we do cars, with whether it be like, of course, repairs, all this kind of stuff that just needs to be massively reformed, because people are getting screwed over, and especially in Georgia, insurance costs are way high.
Yeah.
Including housing costs too. The burden of proof you need to put on to prove something so small broke during a storm is crazy. It's not just windows and stuff. I've had stuff. I've had TVs break. Just due to a simple power outage, just due to the simple power blowing during a hurricane. And it's like, even that stuff, should be replaced and covered. And I feel like the burden of proof you put on victims to prove that they got screwed over is so hard, because you're worried about a small slice of quote unquote fraud that it's very rare. So around that stuff, I would want to cut some. This was the point, was I want to cut some regulations, make it easier to get help, but also strengthen regulations to make it so the help that you're getting is better and the insurance you're getting is better, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So that kind of goes into my next question too. Independent and green energy sources, and I promise this, I have this question and one more, and then we'll be done. Independent and green energy sources are on the rise, and we've kind of talked about EVs and whatever already, but to the people that are scared of, the green energies, the solar panels, the windmills, as Donna likes to call them, and the EVs and whatever, how would you sell all of this to not just your constituents in this district, but the country as a whole, as a good improvement for the future?
So, the easiest thing about, and I don't understand why Republicans don't do this, and some of them do, like if you look at Chuck Grassley, or the Republican from Iowa, the senator, old Chuck Grassley.
I don't know that one, I don't think.
Old as shit. I mean,
Oh wait, is that the one that's 93?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So Chuck is actually called the father of wind because Iowa's got so much wind because he introduced, a tax credit for federal wind. So the Republicans did used to be for renewable energy in ways. I don't know since this whole, if it was Trump who did it, but when they kind of turned, I want to say it was during Obama's term.
Actually, I think it was. It was
turn because
before Obama's term.
The fossil fuel lobby got very high because
Well, remember Al Gore's
I'm
climate
sorry.
change
Here
thing?
it was. When both parties, this is when it happened. I saw that when both parties united around, clean energy, the fossil fuel industry got pissed.
Oh, that's right.
And started backing Republicans because at one point, like with McCain and Obama, you almost had two presidential candidates who were, pretty, environmentally friendly, and the fossil fuel industry couldn't have that, so of course they split it up. Republicans went back to fossil fuels and natural gas and whatnot, and Democrats said they do clean energy, but we really haven't passed any bills that significantly until on the federal level until the Inflation Reduction Act. So I think we need strong industrial policy. I'm the only candidate to sign the Green New Deal as well. The Green New Deal is not one bill, as people like to put it. It doesn't cost $10 trillion, whatever number, the crazy number they're going to say about it that I signed on to. It is a number of bills that combat a number of things, from housing to health care to transportation. So I just think we can do much better, and especially around clean energy. It's the easiest sell is it's. Do you want to rely on foreign companies or foreign countries? I'm sorry, for oil, because no matter how much you say drill baby drill, we do not drill enough type of oil here that we're able to refine, if that makes sense. We drill a lot of what's called sweet crude, but refineries in Texas and whatnot, they rely on heavy crude, which we don't drill enough of. And there's not enough heavy crude in the United States to even make up for that. So we're going to have to keep on importing oil. And so we're going to be subject to a global marketplace, which puts us at OPEC. Anytime we have a geopolitical crisis, like a war or a breakout in the Middle East, something like that happens, prices are going to spike. So the easiest sell is, it's energy independence. That's what Republicans have been claiming for years, is energy independence. And they think just because that we're a net exporter that we're energy independent, but we're not, because again, we're still relying on foreign countries for oil. So I would sell it as this is energy independence. It's lower costs. It may be costly or upfront, and it's actually not getting that. It's actually getting cheaper. I just saw a thing where it's actually cheaper to start a whole new solar farm than it is to run 99% of our existing coal plants. So that economics is getting there as well. I just think the United States is way behind. It just needs to get sold as energy independence, and we're gonna get left behind by China. In that area is so bad. On cars, like I said, I'm big on cars. It's your personal freedom. It's decision. I do think we need to watch our emissions, and also make cars that are safer. We rely too much on these heavier vehicles that are very. I know people like that, but they're also very dangerous. So we need to make sure if we are going to have a blend of cars on the road, that we have these smaller cars are safer and can handle accidents. Because I just was in one a few months ago and almost died. So we need to make sure that happens as well. But I also want a range of choices. I think you don't just got to set on EVs. I liked how the tax credit for electric vehicles applied to plug-in hybrids as well. I like plug-in hybrids. I think that's a smart idea, in a transition, or even in for long term. It was a blend of EVs and plug-in hybrids, because most Americans don't really drive that far. You know what I mean? So a plug-in hybrid, like again, I bought the Chevy Volt. That had about 50 miles of range just on straight electric, right? So not many folks drive more than 50 miles in a day. So that car was enough to just drive with electric all day. Then if you need to go to a trip far away, you don't got to stop for to charge your car, which can take longer. than gas. It does take longer than gas, but manufacturers are getting faster with their cars, with charging times, and also we're getting more charging stations built. We do have the NEVI
We need them in
program.
Hinesville too.
Right, and there's even some in my county, and here in Kingsland, it's right out by the pilot. But we need to. We're still not there yet with chargers. I believe. I think we need to put some more in gas stations. We got a lot of hidden behind the hotels up in Savannah and whatnot. I like to see them more in gas stations and not, so hidden. And then there's also finding them and making them visible. Gas stations, you got these big ass signs that say dollars amounts. Well, for an electric vehicle driver, you're typically using an app called PlugShare or EVgo or whatever that manufacturer of that charging company's app is. To even find their chargers, so we need to advertise better for that as well. But like I said, the biggest thing to sell this is energy independence. And then I think, just to get off topic while we're talking about climate change, I guess, is just one quick thing is, no one talks about the fact that everyone screams green energy, clean energy, green, renewable, blah blah, EV, this and that. No one ever talks about a long-term option for replacing oil. We use oil on everything.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So until you find a long-term solution to replace oil, you're pretty much tied to it in a lot of ways. So that's where I think we need to put a lot of our time and effort to, is trying to phase oil out of not just our transportation sector, but everything. Because even these windmills, they require a shit ton of oil to lubricate. That's true. Republicans are right. That's a common Republican talking point, is that, hey, they use that. They are correct in that. They do use oil to lubricate them. So let's figure out a way to do stuff better and get away from oil, because it's a natural resource. It's not going to be around for forever. It's expensive. We fight wars over it. I'm tired of it. I mean, and it's again, it's not great for public health and safety.
I kind of want to say, on a little side note, I think it's kind of funny that MAGA, we're kind of supporting Elon and Tesla and whatever, even though 20 years ago most Republicans were dogging anybody driving a hybrid or a smart car or anything green or whatever, because
it sucks.
pussy
now,
liberal or
now,
whatever.
he went out.
And I just think it's funny that it's
I think that was the one thing I was okay with Elon was about, was I didn't like that he had money and whatnot. And I think he's a complete terror. I think he's a terrible person, to be honest with you. But anyway, for his, at least I think he didn't start the company, but he
bought it.
At least Tesla,
he bought the shares.
At least Tesla is doing well. In America, they did start they did start the EV revolution here. At least they do have the most superchargers here, at least, so they are the leading company here. They do have the market share. They need to make an affordable electric vehicle, though. That's their big problem. But then he went to this whole MAGA thing, and it's you built these cyber trucks, and it's they're massive.
Ugly as shit.
They're
I'm
huge.
sorry.
They are ugly. I mean, your car taste is your car taste. I don't care whatever y'all want to buy.
I mean, if you like it, that's fine. I think that.
But again, it's what the point is. It's you're making. So electric cars go by kilowatts per mile, or kilowatts per mile. So how many kilowatts per mile? So it's how these big cyber trucks, they're not even that efficient, and also how much manufacturing production is in this, or manufacturing emissions goes in the process. How green are these cars? Are those cyber trucks actually? Just I would ask the same question about an electric Hummer, which we have as well. It's not really the greenest car you could buy. Is it better than some gas cars? Yes, but it's kind of close to getting. Those are the ones where it's kind of close.
Yeah.
But again, it's America. Personal choice is big.
Yeah.
Big to us. That's
I
why
love
I said,
that.
with American, it's easy. I value our personal choice, so I try to, I don't want to force anyone into anything. I think if we put incentives, like we did with the EV tax credit and that kind of stuff, is I call it, a carrot and a stick approach. If you do that and don't mandate stuff and freak people out and just make it affordable, they will shift and buy, because it makes economic sense. People work and vote, or people live their lives vote and everything based off their personal finances.
Yeah.
The majority of us. So if it makes economic sense, it's going to make sense that they're going to do it. You don't got to shove it down their throats, but just make it affordable for them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing like for, to make your home efficient. Right now, the Inflation Reduction Act has a program where you can put $32,000 of home upgrades in your house at no cost, covered at the point of sale, and no Democrat in Georgia is even selling it, and they passed the bill. Yet I got the work done to my home. It was 30 plus grand to get a heat pump, all this stuff done. It's like it's just.
Dude, can you send me that, because I'm under renovations right now.
We do this stuff, and then they don't sell it well. I mean, that was the top, but it's still green stuff. I want homes more efficient as well. We can do a lot better, and it's our messaging too. Like even that electric vehicle tax credit I used. Not many people knew that it was at the point of sale at first, or not enough people knew. But it was basically you go to the dealer and you could transfer your tax credit to the dealer, which was great because people like me, working class folks who don't have a federal tax liability, I still pay taxes in Medicare, Social Security, gases, all the kind of fees. My dollar, just like yours, is taxed 95,000 times before I get it. But anyway, I digress into whatever.
It's okay.
It's
it all correlates, dude. These are all serious issues.
I just think we could do much better, and that tax credit was smart because, again, if you have no tax liability, you can't benefit unless you have some money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who's gonna buy an electric car if you have a $4,000 tax credit, yet they have no tax liability? So that doesn't benefit them at all. So it's kind of a wash. That's like what Trump did. Trump replaced it with a deduction on interest rates for your car insurance loans. The cars have to be new. It's 3 years, just like every other gimmick, and it has to be American made. So
yeah.
It's.
Because I
just love the tax code.
No,
People don't talk about this a lot much, but I think the tax code is a great way to address poverty, and it's real quick. The IRS is a very. People are I might get flack, but I like the IRS. They can do a lot. They sent out all those stimulus checks to y'all in a very quick time to most of the people.
Quicker had it not been for Mitch.
And then if Trump didn't have to sign them too, y'all would have got even faster.
Yeah.
Then they did monthly child tax credits, sent them out as well, and they were very underfunded.
They're always underfunded.
It's like I viewed our tax code and the IRS as a way to pull people out of poverty because they have our bank accounts, they have whatnot. So if I pass something like a monthly child tax credit or increase the earned income tax credit, I can make those policies monthly and hit y'all's bank accounts every first of the month. That way you're not waiting to tax time to have some money in your damn pockets.
Yeah.
And then just adjust it come taxes.
So our last question, I wish I could ask more, but we would literally be here all like the rest of the campaign race because there's so many issues. Before I answer or ask this last one, I just want to say thank you all again for watching. I know this is a very long video, but again, I want to get as much information on Joey's stances as possible out there to y'all. If we didn't touch a subject that you thought we should, please leave it in the comments, and we'll try to get it next time. I'm trying to think of it. Again, just thank you so much for your support. I hope you'll vote for him. We need younger, progressive candidates in there. We need Democratic Socialists in Congress. We have one in NYC. We've got Graham Plattner running for Senate in Maine. We have Katie Wilson in Seattle. Shout out to Katie. We need to get more because our very lives are at stake. I'm not trying to sound doom and gloom, man, but even though I have hope for the future, it doesn't change the fact shit's gonna get real bad, and we need to get people in there that are actually gonna do something, and not more corporate established politicians or Kamala sycophants or Brat Summer or Donald sycophants or whatever, like who just want to maintain status quo or make everything worse. We need real positive progressive change. And speaking of sycophants and whatnot, my last question is, and we kind of touched on it already, our country is more divided than ever. And how would you reach out to those who are cautious of you? And how would you try to convince Republican, non-voters, Democrats, and independents why they should vote for you?
I would tell them to vote for me or any other candidate. I know we got a lot of candidates running in this race. There's eight of us, seven people counting me. I am, and I don't mean this to sound dismissive of their lives or whatever, or to just call out their lives for them, but none of them are really working class candidates. They're not working class folks. They're also, some of them are older than me, and the ones that are my age are doing much better than me in life. I'm not criticizing their life stance, how they made money, or that the fact that they have money, or that they're not even wealthy. They're just better off. I have kids and whatnot. I know what y'all are going through. I lived this shit my whole life, my whole entire adult life. I got kids. I'm really invested in making this country better. I want to make it, of course, for my kids and y'all's kids. We need someone who understands issues and doesn't just talk about them from a goddamn podium and just yap at y'all voters. I really do listen to you guys. I want to make changes that y'all want. I even had an interesting thing an idea where, for my platform, if I do win, like I said, I made it clear, I would open up my office and let people vote on legislation before it's even, available. I do want to give y'all good representation, but like I said, I understand these issues very, very well. So I'm not going to make another candidate and go there and just, again, try to throw something at a wall and see what sticks. And it also gets down to two is what are your motives, behind office, and what are you going to do when you get there? How are you going to get your policies done, and what are your policies? I feel like I've put out more out there than any other candidate about what those issues are. I'm not going to dive all deep in my policies right now, but I will dive into the fact that I will, unlike the others, I will stand at the party leadership, and I'm not going to vote a yes, no, or a no vote for Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries, I'm actually not even going to vote for. I will make sure that he's not the next Speaker of the House or the leader of the Democratic Party, and Chuck Schumer needs to go as well. We need dramatic change in this Democratic Party. It's not the party of the working class anymore. So, like I said, I know what I'm up against. Going to Congress, if that makes sense, not against my opponents. I know what I would face in Congress, and I know what to do when I'll get there, and I know that they don't want one of us up there. They don't want a working class folk, and despite what in front of my name, it'd be a D or a Democratic Socialist label, I ask you to humbly do not look at the damn labels and just look at me as one of your neighbors and say, would you want your neighbor in Congress? Because I will help you no matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, MAGA. I don't care what you are, religion, race, it does not matter. If you're struggling, and reach out to me in a nice manner, obviously, even if I will help you. I will give people the shirt off my back. And like I said, I do think I'm the most ready candidate for this race. I'm very in-depth in policy, but I dig into those policies because Congress hides so much bad shit in legislations, but they also hide even good shit in legislation, if that makes sense. They don't tell us what these bills are, what they do, how they impact our life. They just pass these fancy laws, called with dumb names, like the Inflation Reduction Act, which makes no sense because it was a climate change bill, the American Rescue Plan, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, whatever it may be. Just give it slap a fancy name on it, and then walk away. That's not how politics should work. It's passing a law, implementing it, and then selling it. So there's steps to it. You got to make sure people are aware of the help that's available to them. Not everyone is on social media. The average American is not paying attention to politics every 30 seconds of the week. I think I read a funny study one time. I think it's like 30 seconds or maybe 4 minutes every week. The average American looks at politics, so it's like We have to find a way to, when we pass laws, to let people know about what is in them, how they can benefit your lives. Because a lot of folks do not think the government is working for them. And yes, in a lot of areas I agree with you, they're not. But there is some help out there. And it's just saddening that even there's some help out there that people don't know about. Like, for instance, if you're on Snap, you can go get a free phone. You know, it's called Lifeline. It was actually made by Ronald Reagan. They switched it to Obama phones. And Obama's FCC applied to cell phones. But it was a Reagan program. Whatever. Anyway, long story short, the government will pay for your phone if you're on Snap, Medicaid, all this kind of stuff. So there's so many programs that people don't know about that don't use. Like even this. We have 42 million people, or 40 million people on Snap, I believe. I could be wrong.
It's something about
It's very high though. So every one of them could get a free phone. Only 7 million have chosen to do so. So it's like, why is the participation rate low? Is it a lack of awareness? Is it there's too much paperwork? We need to look at implement these laws better, sell them better, and yeah, that's it. And actually monitor, the outcome and kind of go from there. And I don't think I don't think any candidate in this race is ready to stand up to party leadership, to stand up to these wealthy donors in Congress. I think they'll kind of get shell shocked, and I haven't seen enough policy from them to even let me think that they know what they're running for, if that makes sense. I think some of them would be great at local seats, but I don't think that they're good for a Congress federal seat. I see a lot of Medicaid expansion. Y'all can't do that. Only the states can do that. It's also a half measure because, like I said in the debate, the one big beautiful bill puts work requirements on that Medicaid expansion population. So there's so much stuff that needs to be done. And again, that's why I'll take the policy wonk all day, because I know what the hell's going on. And not only do I know what's going on in and out, because I study it, read it, understand it, but I also literally live it. So, that's why I would say, if you go out today, vote for me. If the day's out, go out, vote for me today. If your polling place is still open, go tomorrow and early voting. You got till May 15th. If not, please go out there on May 19th and vote for me. I've got a few more events coming up. I hope to see you out there. I'm sorry I can't make it to every campaign event like every other candidate. I made a promise that, again, like I said at the beginning, I will not promise to be a father. And I have kept that promise. I've made damn near most events, just like every other candidate has. It's been a fun race.
You've only missed and I want to kind of elaborate a little bit. He's only missed 3. One was just a small social event with donuts, and 2 forums, one of which didn't have very much of a turnout, which is not against the forum itself, and it's not an excuse not to show up. And the forum yesterday, it was literally just because we drove all the way to Atlanta, and he has 4 kids.
And he literally
he was so exhausted, and even I'm exhausted still from it. I've gotten no sleep from it because working on his campaign and everything. We're not complaining and we're not bitching or whining about it. We love doing this because we want to help people. We really, truly do. That's why I'm doing it. That's why he's doing it. I'm not being paid. I'm not getting anything from this except a promise that if he wins, he'll take me with him and give me a job, which I desperately need as well. Because I'm unemployed. I have less than $2,000 in my bank account because I've gone through so much of my savings due to the SAG strikes, the writer strikes, and Donald and the economy and the tariffs and whatever. And I have my own personal issues to take care of as well. So we're not doing this just for ourselves. We're doing this for you. For free, mind you.
Yes. Realize too, like candidates from Congress, especially working class candidates like myself. I don't know if y'all know AOC or whatnot. She ran up ran a district in New York and could run it very easily because it's a small district. This
Yeah.
is huge.
This district is
I have
huge.
driven this state this district over 50 times in an older car with questionable air conditioning when I already drive a lot. But just again, not to brag, it's not bragging. Just saying this is rough, and I'm doing all this with less help than no help. Ryan is my only help. I don't have a team like everybody else does. I don't really need one. I like doing it like this. It should be done like this, I think, because it shows work ethic. But also, I don't get paid, and I'm not paying myself. I could. You can actually take a salary out of donations. It's legal. It's from the FEC allows it, and they allow it for working class candidates like myself. But I don't have enough donations to even do that. So, nor would I even. I don't even. And if I did, I don't even know if I would do it. So, I mean, it's like I said, this is for free. So if I miss an event or missed one event, I think some person gave me some shit or flack, whatever you want to call it. Like, I mean, again, put your name on the ballot, and you see what this is like, because I'm the only one out there attacking my own party and telling y'all what is real. I'm telling y'all that again. No other candidate told y'all you had to pay $5,220 just to get on the damn ballot. That's not.
Because I tried to run.
That's not democracy.
And tell them about the paupers petition, which I also tried to do.
Yeah, and then you're allowed to have ballot fees as long as there's a reasonable alternative to make sure working class or low income people can run. So in Georgia they have what's called paupers papers. But hear me out. This is how crazy it is. Each paper only has 15 signatures. They have to everyone has to get notarized. You're talking about over 600 pages get notarized.
Because you have to get 1 to 3% of the district's population.
And then each voter that signs it, you have to make in different stacks by Glenn County, Chatham County, Camden County, whatever county it may be. And then again, go get that notarized, and then that's not counting the labor costs as well. So it is probably more expensive here to do paupers papers than it is to just pay the damn ballot fee, which is why when I asked the election workers at about paupers papers there, they were literally shocked and say and he even admitted to me it doesn't work. So I would urge our state legislators, people out there running for elections like Corey Ford and whatnot, who have actually said something about these ballot fees, to please reform it, because this sucks. This is way too much money to run for Congress.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be like this.
It's extremely unfair and unethical.
This is why we have bad representatives.
Yeah.
The system is set up for wealthy folks to do it. And again, if y'all didn't know, if any state legislator didn't know that's how pauper papers works, because they're so rare, I urge you to look into them, because again, you need about 700 plus documents notarized. So imagine how much that costs, plus all the, again, all the filing of Chatham, Glenn, different counties, 15 signatures only per page. It's incredibly hard. That's not even talking about the labor put in. So yeah, it's ridiculous. So I would say any state candidate, please, to help fix this situation so we can have better representatives. That's all I got. This is a pretty fun interview.
Yeah. So I'd like to thank my candidate Joey for taking the time out of his day and family and campaign duties to let me conduct this interview. This was purely my idea. This is something I wanted to do, because I know while there are plenty of events to go to, there's also not enough, and some of happening at the same time, and he can't go to everything at the same time.
Also, they don't ask good questions either.
So, don't say that, because now you won't get invited.
Well, I mean, some of them just they ask good questions, like I said, but I'm just sad, no one until this day spoke even about Roe versus Wade. Like, come on.
Or Israel's genocide.
We have some events coming up in some few forums that other places are hosting. Please, if those organizations are listening, let's start talking about issues too, like again, like Roe versus Wade, stuff like that we're leaving out, and just talking about ICE and all these same topics over and over and over again. I don't want to say I have to. I will say it, of course, but our messaging is kind of the same. I would urge y'all to try to look at one forum and then try to differ yourself from the next forum, and so it's not such the same answers. And so these candidates that I'm running against, because I'm one of the few that go off the head every time I speak are not so robotic and have this whole entire script down that they have written down of what they're going to tell you in their talking points and sound so fly and on the gun because I talk like a little Joe Biden, kind of a little, stutter or whatnot. But this stuff I'm saying to you is 90% of the time off the top of my head. The only thing I read is sometimes I read my intro. That's it. And he can't even get me to do that.
Yeah, because he'll like make stuff up or make words up or whatever on the fly and whatever. And the whole reason why I write him a script and to begin with is to keep him from stumbling and stuttering so that he can come off a little more coherent and articulate and whatever, because it is important to sound articulate and coherent, not robotic, or because the whole point of Joey is to be relatable to you, because he is you, I am you, you are us. If you're watching this and you agree with us, you are literally us. And even if you don't agree, you're still us. Like, we are literally all in this together. I'm not going to get into High School Musical breakout song about it, but we are literally all in this together. Like, we are brothers and sisters in this. Like, regardless of what generation you're from, this is our home, this is our planet, and we've got to learn to start living together peacefully. We don't have to like each other. We don't have to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. Personalities don't always mesh together, but we can respect each other for being human beings. We can respect that each of us deserves to have what this Constitution was completely founded upon, which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Whatever that may be. And as long as you ain't diddling kids, I don't care how you get your happiness, as long as they're an adult and they're consensual and you're not committing like any type of fraud or whatever. But again, I'd like to thank Joey for taking the time. I'd like to thank myself, and I'm pretty proud of myself for doing this because I really want to make progressive change. If you want more information or if you want to contact Joey directly, go to his site. If you can't see it, it says joeyforgeorgia.com. Well, there you go. joeyforgeorgia.com.
Will that be backwards if they look? I don't know.
No, probably. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, I'll put it in the description or whatever on YouTube. And Facebook, and definitely come out to the forums.
And if you can volunteer to help out, please send a message. We do need some other volunteers just for some small stuff like canvassing and some foam mags and stuff like that. That'd be great. I should roll that stuff out soon. But I'm gonna make a hard last campaign push. This is the idea from the get-go, was to go hard at the last minute, because this is where our funds kicked in. This is how I could get the time off of work. So it had to be this way. So any help that we can get is greatly appreciated.
Like any last comments? Do you have any questions for me or?
No, it's really good. Thank you.
Okay.
I really appreciate the interview. I mean,
well,
like I said, this is right. This was his idea. I mean, it's all his questions. No screen. We didn't rehearse this.
No.
None of this was rehearsed.
I literally wrote all these questions the minute I got here. The ones that weren't from the Jessup form, I literally wrote all of this as soon as I got here. None of this was planned, or aside from actually doing the interview, none of this was scripted. Aside from my questions, which I literally wrote the minute I got here. Joey's responses, none of it was scripted. None of it was rehearsed. I didn't tell him to say any of these things. These are all literally his stances and policies and what he wants to implement when he gets elected. Despite what my opinions may be, like I said a while ago, we don't always share the same, or we don't agree on everything, but we agree on pretty much 95 to 99% of everything. The only thing I can't really think of agreeing on is I guess stocks shit. You like doing stocks. I don't care to do stocks. I find it too
the same general point on stuff.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just doing stocks. I mean, everyone in agreement on stuff anyway. I feel like I talk about stuff a lot. Everyone, I feel like, has the whole plot. You're never going to agree with someone 100%. Obviously, you're going to debate upon the issues or the way to get there. But I think the most of us, for the most part, even in this country, even including me and Ryan, agree on what needs to be done. If that makes sense. Just it's how you're gonna do it, what's gonna get done along the, how you're gonna implement it, what's gonna follow. But that's it. But I think the end goals. Most of us in this country agree that we need, like I said, better health care, paid family leave, higher minimum wages, union rights, women's rights, all this kind of shit. It's basic common sense, and it shouldn't be up for debate. It shouldn't not be law right now. We shouldn't be having this talk. It's insane.
Life is easy. People make it hard. Life is easy. You eat, you work, you sleep, you reproduce, you shit, same thing, repeat, same day. It's greed, selfishness, and all that other bad shit is what makes life so ridiculously hard. And unfortunately, the wrong people have been in power for too long and have made life a lot harder for all of us. And Joey and I want to change that. I'm not running. I know when I say we, you really mean him, but we are all in this together. Again, I'm not going to try and go over everything I just said, but it is true. We really are all in this together, and we need to start acting like it. We're not here to attack Amanda, Michael, Patrick, Randy, DeFanzio, Joyce, or Sharon. We respect each of these candidates. We even respect our Republican candidates. I have my own personal opinions about some of them, but some of them I actually do like as a person. I want to
be clear. When y'all dog on me on a page for attacking your preferred candidate, I'm attacking on policy. Back up. That's fine. That's fair. It's an election. We're not going to hold hands. Y'all said you wanted fighters, right? You tired of the status quo? You want to fight Democrats? You got some.
But we are not going to attack anybody based on race, sex, orientation, nationality, etc.
I'm not even saying a personal attack you. I'm not even going to go there like it happened in the debate. I'm not going to do that whole personal banter with you. We debate on I will debate you on policy and politics, which includes, like I said, who backs you. I mean, who endorses you, because that's them putting their stamp on you and a stamp of approval. So that reflects them as well. That's why I invoked Mayor Van Johnson, who I'm not a fan of, in that sense. But that's not hating on someone. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Again, so I have no qualms towards anyone. I just hope that you, again, choose me, because we have ran the same type of candidate over and over and over again. And I hope we have gotten worse results every single year in District 1. And you put me up against Jim Kingston, who was going to win the Republican side of the way. So I'm telling you, you have a working class dad like me, and you have a rich Nepo baby who's been spoon-fed his entire frickin' life. That's two picture-perfect classes of what America is right now.
Yeah.
We will kick his ass. So get out there, and I'm telling you, please vote Joey Palimeno today, tomorrow, up till May 15th and May 19th. And let's go to the general, and let's actually go to Congress. I'm not hating on y'all's picks, but I'm just saying your picks are not going to make it till December, period. That's all I mean when I say, that's all I mean when I come at someone. And I'm just talking about policy.
Yep. And I'm just talking about wanting a better future that works for all of us, not just a small group of people who had everything handed to them in life and never worked for anything. You have worked for everything.
My back hurts.
So, thank you so much. And again, vote for Joey, and we hope to see you on May 19th.